Okay. So good evening, everybody. It's always nice to see such a nice crowd. So I'm calling the select board meeting to order on August 11th at 6:30 p.m. And before we get started, we have a big agenda tonight, lots of good stuff to go over. I wanted to wish Mr. Valentine happy birthday. He's spending his birthday with us tonight, so.
29.
Okay, so we're gonna start out with kind of an unusual agenda item, but one that is really important, certainly to me. As everybody probably knows at this point, Mr. Haggerty, Jim Haggerty, has submitted his resignation as town clerk effective 9/30. Jim has been town clerk since 2015 and has done marvelous things for the office of town clerk, which I think we all know and appreciate. So I wrote a couple things down because I didn't want to forget anything, because this is very important to me to make sure that he's recognized for what he's done for this town. So Jen, can you pull a chair up here? Get a little closer to us. Oh, there's a chair. I didn't see it. So this is truly bittersweet for me. I'm happy for you that you're going to be able to be with your lovely family more than you have been. I mean, you spend tons of hours in this job and you've got a great family, and so that part's all good. So totally wish you well. But I personally am going to miss you a lot. I've known you for a long time. We served on advisory together and have conferred many, many times since then on various town matters. I respect who you are as a human being more than anything else, but your wisdom and sage advice have been so important to me. To say that you would be a hard act to follow is simply an understatement. You inspire confidence in everything you do and would probably win most popular town official if there ever were such a contest, probably by a long shot. You've made such strides in improving the services of the town clerk. This town is so lucky that you decided to run for town clerk. Your work ethic is nonpareil. I know how much thought you give to making sure that town meetings and elections are run smoothly. I know how much time you spent thinking about clicker technology until you got it right. And I love your stories, but most of all, I just like you and will treasure our time together and truly, truly wish you well. So I want the select board to also have a chance to say that everybody knows you, they've worked with you, so I'm sure everybody has their own thoughts. So AD, you can go next.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I will also miss you, and I think you've done an outstanding job. Just a couple of things I want to appreciate you for. One is I think you've done a good job of encouraging and mentoring. You know, I don't know if I'm still a younger board member, but the newer residents and people getting involved. Certainly, I know you were very encouraging of me, and I appreciate that. I would say under your tenure, you know, the town clerk's office went from like the 19th century to the 21st century, and you know, very rapidly. You know, where Kathy's right, you would be, if there was a contest, win the most well liked. But I would say also very respected and trusted as an honest broker, and you know, take very seriously all the election procedures and everything like that. And I know certainly from behind the scenes, knowing how hard you work, and hopefully everyone appreciates that. Every single election, you know, where you have to be there, 6:30 in the morning to open it, it ends and goes until 8 o'clock. And I know how much prep time you put into all of that. Anytime I had, you know, sometimes I call you with questions on the weekend and you're there. Sometimes you're here in the office at Townhouse on the weekend. And, you know, you're someone that's devoted your career to public service and the FBI and town clerk's office. And I know that you have family members and kids who are also in the Navy, right? And have served your country. And, you know, all people should also know that, you know, Jim has become a leader among other town clerks and training other town clerks, and went to other town meetings to find out ways that they can do things better. brings a lot of common sense, great sense of humor, a lot of great stories you've told me. There's one, I don't remember the details of it, that has to do with where when you're working for the FBI and someone's pulling a prank on someone and someone brought like a horse or like a large animal into an office building in Midtown Manhattan. So I don't remember the details of it, but hopefully you can refresh my memory about that story and tell that one again. That was my favorite.
There was some alcohol involved. Christmas party off the books, no record.
Yeah, so also very nice to kids, you know, anytime I was here with my kids and then you would be there, would you like the stickers, you know? And I think other people's kids as well. So just a friendly, knowledgeable presence in town hall that represented the town outstanding way. And you know, you also were on the advisory committee for a long time before that. And but I'm sure we'll stay in touch. And you deserve some time off.
So Jim, your lovely wife and your lovely granddaughter are here too, just so you know, behind you, so.
Making sure he doesn't change his mind.
Sam, you want to go next?
Sure. Echoing some of the previous comments, I think it's interesting if you take a look at the town clerk position over the years. I think it has been for a long time in previous years, a fairly low profile, sleepy kind of business, basically. In the last couple of decades, it's gotten hugely more complicated, as you're well aware. I think I've heard you say there are hundreds of state laws now that affect what the town clerk does. And so we've gone from an age where it wasn't too difficult to fill that position in terms of skill sets. Now it's what I believe is a very professional job. And you've certainly brought us, as Andrew mentioned, into the 21st century there, which is critical to do to keep us out of trouble. And I hugely appreciate that. And as others have said, do it in a way that is friendly and supportive of people. That's a real skill. So again, I greatly appreciate your dedication to the town. And I and the town itself will miss you a lot. So Godspeed in retirement. Thank you.
AP?
Yeah, I mean, echo what everybody said, but you know, Jim, you know, phenomenal work. They can't thank you enough for what you've done for this town and for me. I mean, when I was a young novice volunteer, you spent a lot of time with me to explain things and you know take me on your wing, so to say. And I really appreciate all of that. And you know the stickers for Dottie too. You know, she loves coming into the townhouse and seeing Jim and you know, can't say enough of everything and well earned time off and you will be sorely missed.
Thank you.
Tim?
I mean, my colleagues have said it well. You have some giant shoes that are left here, so we thank you for your time and I look forward to you getting some time off. So well deserved.
Thank you.
So I think there's probably a couple people in the audience that might want to say something because of their relationship with you. And I think I'm looking at one of them right now. Lisa?
Hi, good evening. Lisa Braccio, 13 Oregon Road. Jim, first, I would like to say you are an absolute gentleman, and it has been a pleasure to work with you and have you serve the town of Southborough in so many different ways, not just the ways this board talked about tonight, but your dedication to the town goes way back to the lacrosse days, to 9/11 Field, the long-term lease that we were able to do. Jim spearheaded that. He spearheaded that through the state, through the legislature, getting this done. So we finally have a turf field in Southborough, and that's because of you, Jim, that our youth are able to continue and be able to have the best playing surfaces that they can. You have moved our clerk's office into the 21st century. You still to this day are working towards preserving and saving the town records that we have that go back so far. And I have enjoyed when I do stop in, you always have something to share with me of something new and exciting that came up in going through these records. And I think you are the town historian. You know better than anybody else going back, and you have a story to tell about each piece and how it was found. So I appreciate that. I had the honor and pleasure of working elections for you for many years. And, you know, to see the town and the clerk's office run so well, you should be very proud. Your family should be very proud of you. You have shown us all and shared with your greatness of what you have for this town. The FBI was lucky, but I think Southborough is actually luckier. And one of the main things as well is you were always very welcoming to everyone. If anybody came to the clerk's office, newcomers to town, and they needed something, they left knowing that this is what Southborough is about. This is why people come to Southborough. We're a community. We're all neighbors and we're all friends. And your office has shown that not only through a professional way, but through kindness. And you yourself have shown so many people in this town kindness and helped so many people in this town behind the scenes. My son included, when he first ran, you were a mentor to him. And even before that, you have put in a good word for him when he wanted to do a STEM program. So again, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for all that you've done, all that you've shared with this town. You deserve a break. You and Sally deserve a break, I should say. You know, I don't know how it's going to be with you being home, you know, that may be a little hairy, but again, enjoy your family, enjoy your town, and thank you for everything that you've done.
Well said, Lisa. Well said. Mr. Semino.
So I didn't prepare anything, remarks or wardrobe or anything for tonight, Jim. A lot of words have been used tonight. Certainly gratitude, certainly admiration. The one I have running through my head the most as I stand here is I'm terrified. I think that you have accomplished the most with the least fanfare of anybody I know in town government. To watch how a town meeting comes together, I get to stand up there and do all the talking when town meeting convenes, and then we gavel it out and it's over. And all the days leading up to it and all the days after it are on your shoulders. And I'm certain that most people don't realize that. I certainly realize it, and I have observed it in awe for many, many, many years. And so, with a little bit of a tongue in cheek, I say I'm terrified at what comes next, because we have October something? We have one?
Yes, Paul, we do.
And so we'll so appreciate your tutelage between now and September 30. And I'm sure we'll be fine, but it won't be the same. So thank you very much for everything and supporting me. Couldn't do it without you is a cliche, but cliches are based in truth, and it certainly is in my case. So thank you very much.
Jim, do you want to say anything?
About stories. My old partner used to say that I could talk a cat off a fish wagon, and he didn't mean that as a compliment. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. I would tell 3 points, telling points for whoever replaces me. Things that happened to me in my career downstairs. In my first week, somebody tried to submit an agenda for a meeting on a Friday to be held on Tuesday at noon, and they brought it in about 10 after 12 or something like that. Open meeting law says it has to be in at noon. You see, yeah, but it's an important meeting, blah, blah, blah. I said, so change it at 12:15, 12:30. And somebody that used to work in our office went out and cut the date timestamp off another document, ticked it on that and gave it to me and said, I think this will work. Now, I got to tell you, my first thought is to having fun with the new guy. All right. And I said, not going to work. Make it 12:30. We'll take care of it. To this person, I said, we'll talk on Monday. And I explained at the person if they'd ever heard the term uttering. And they didn't know that that was actually a crime to alter a document. But I said, the more important lesson is that you can never lose your integrity if you can give it away. All right. And that's a critically important thing down there. Second thing, a former town official, doesn't matter who it is, came to me one time when Park Central kicked off. And Debbie DeMaurier, first time I met Debbie and her son came in, and Debbie wanted to see records related to Park Central. Sure, come on in. And honestly, Debbie was a little frosty at the counter. I didn't know her. She seemed a little upset or a little whatever. Showed her where the records are, said, here are the yellow stickers. Just tell me whatever you want. And I'll scan them to you. Would you like a cup of coffee while you look at the records? Right, they're her records, the town records. This is long before we had our process. And a few minutes later, she came in and asked if she could have a cup of coffee. Sure. So she told me she's looking for it. And I said, we don't have that, but if you consider looking at the conservation records, they may have something you want. All right, okay. Shortly thereafter, a former town official came to me and wanted to know, had anybody else come in to look at the records for Park Central? And I said, what do you mean? Well, has anybody in to look at the records? And I said, I'm not a librarian. I don't tell you who read the book ahead of before you did. And the person said, we both work for the town. I said, no, I work for the voters. I don't work for the town. And that's a very important lesson that you have. So right after that, I got a Swiss flag and put it up on the wall as a reminder to me and everybody else. Finally, I know that for every one of you, I said, no, it's up time. And it's very important, whoever you bring in as a clerk, to be able to say no to somebody, not that you can't do that, but if this is what you're trying to accomplish, the way you're going about this isn't the best way. Here's another way you could accomplish that. And that's what I've tried to do with everybody, to try to, even when I think some people have come in with just, not you guys, but some off the wall craziness, cuckoo-ness. Here's how you could go before the town and the committee or town meeting to accomplish what you want to accomplish, even though you're out of your mind. I mean, that's what I'm thinking, but I can't do that. And that's really, really important to do that. Even when, frankly, you talked about treating people as neighborly, that's that. I remember saying to somebody that I try to treat everybody like a neighbor you haven't met. And I can say in 11 years, I've counted on less than 2 hands the number of times I've dealt with someone that I thought, I'm glad you're not my neighbor. That's been my litmus test. There was a guy that said he wanted to see my backside, but he didn't call it that. And when I told him about that, I told him he was about 65 years old. Some people tried to kiss it, some people tried to kick it, but he's the first one that has to look at it. So, and he didn't know what to say, and he walked out of the building, which is a good thing. But it's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. I'm glad we were able to do some good things for the people. And when I talk to people that are skeptical or don't want to get involved in town meeting, whatever the issue is, I just try to share how much they can do to help other people and advance the collective good of the town. If you've seen all the kids on our collective response team and all the kids that we have helping at the elections and all the rest of it, I hope that those kids will be advocates, or the kids that we've gone to the middle school, we had a vote, literally brought the ballots and had the kids vote, that they can understand that. When we did that the last time, I gave them a homework assignment. They saw how easy it was to fill out a ballot, put it through the machine. That was great. I said, all right, I want you to go home and ask your parents why only 13% of them voted. Just to have a conversation, not to shame you, but just to have a conversation. So I'm not moving to Tahiti, but if Sally wanted to go to Tahiti, sign me up. I'll make it going. I'm not going down the road, and whoever you select as clerk, I'll be happy to help them move it on. So thank you. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank
Hey, Sally, remember, for better, for worse, but not for lunch. Remind him. Okay, thank everybody for that. So that was great. The next thing we also always look forward to, Chief Newell.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here tonight. We're here to request the board's appointment of Mr. Ross Suter to the position of full-time probationary police officer with the Southfield Police Department. Mr. Suter has passed his background investigation, his psych and physical examinations. He is also post-certified. He holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and political science with Westfield State University, where he made Dean's List 7 semesters out of the 8 semesters. He is currently a resident of Millbury, Massachusetts, and he recently worked for the Rutland Police Department and has experience working as a Capitol Police officer and a federal law enforcement officer in Washington, D.C. Mr. Suter will fill the vacancy that was left with the exit of Detective Owen O'Brien, who transferred to Marlborough Police Department. And with his expected appointment tonight, that'll bring us back to being fully staffed. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions at all for Ross?
Sam, we'll start with you.
No questions, good resume, and delighted to have you on board. And it sounds like you're ready to get up to speed quickly. So welcome aboard. Thank you.
Tim,
No questions. Welcome to Southborough.
AD.
Yeah, I was also, you looked at a lot of good experience, so happy to have you on board.
AP.
echo everybody and, you're joining a great department and a great chief. So hope a nice new building and nice new cars. So. Well,
That's true. Well, there is one question that what Chief said begs me to answer. What happened to that 8th semester?
It's my first semester,
So we'll give you the one. All right, so no, welcome. It's a great department. You got a great chief, you got 2 great lieutenants, you got great colleagues, so I think you will be very happy here. Okay, they work hard too, though. Okay, anything else, chief?
No, that's it. Just a vote.
All right, AP, you want to make the motion?
I move that we approve the position for Officer Ross Suter.
Second.
Sammy seconded. Okay, all in favor? Unanimous vote. So,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's ask the town clerk if you could swear him in. And real quickly, we truly appreciate Jim Hegarty, all his service and all the times that he's helped us with swearing in our officers and always adjusting his schedule and just being a great guy and being there for all the department heads, and we're gonna miss him.
Russ, who has always worked with one, that you will faithfully and discharge the duties incumbent upon you as a probationary police officer in the town of Southborough, according to the best of your ability and understanding. Agreeably with the rules and regulations of the police department, the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and under rules, regulations, or bylaws of the municipal employer made under the authority thereof the board of selectmen, so help you God. Congratulations, officer.
Right. Thank you.
I know you're back. So Jim, that may be the last one you do. We hope.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, so we're going to take a 5-minute recess to let those who don't want to stay for the entire meeting to say goodbye. Yeah. Okay, so now we're back in session. Okay, back to our normal order. So next thing is public comment, which is comment from the public on any item that is not on the agenda tonight. Comments are 3 months or less, and we won't respond because they're not on the agenda. So is there any public comment tonight? No?
There is.
You can make a public comment for something that's not on the agenda, David. Sorry. Okay, so nothing. All right, so let's get started. We've got a lot on this agenda tonight that are, I think it's gonna take some time. Okay, so Mr. Cundiff, we tried to put all your stuff together.
I appreciate that.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna move up one thing that is also bill related. There's an article, a proposed article on the warrant for October 17th that is also a Mr. Cundiff item, so we're gonna discuss that one too after he gets the first 4 done. All right, Bill, so you want to start off with transfer station rules and regs. So to tee this up, we talked about this last meeting. And we had a long, lengthy 45-minute or so discussion. We got quite into the weeds as far as transfer station rules and regs. So we agreed to continue the discussion to this meeting and allow the two people that seem to want some changes more than the other three, Mr. Pfaff and Mr. Fling, to meet with Mr. Cundiff. What they did, it's my understanding that you've incorporated a lot of their suggestions into what we've got in front of us tonight.
I would say the vast majority of the suggestions that were made were incorporated.
Okay, so this one, I don't want to spend a lot of time on tonight. I think we spent plenty of time on it last meeting, so you want to just briefly summarize where we are, and then we'll just
Sure.
see if there's anything
So
else to add
since the
to it.
last meeting, I met with Andrew and Tim, took their comments, compiled them, tallied them up, reproduced the document, distributed it for feedback. I really didn't get much feedback. I did circulate it internally in my department. Got some feedback from some of the staff. I incorporated one thing from staff, and the Board of Health had a comment on the child car seat, so we decided to pull that out.
What was their comment,
Um,
just to be clear?
yeah. The Board of Health commented that the American Academy of Pediatrics parent-facing page on recommendations on car seat reuse under shopping for car safety seats. It states to not use car seats that you do not know where they came from. And then they provide the link.
Okay. All right, so you're happy with what we've got in front of us, right, Bill?
I'm okay with it, yes.
Okay. All right, so I'm just going to go down, starting CM. Any other comments?
No, again, we could quibble about a lot of this, but I think the key thing is that we get something in place here, particularly the swap shop regulations. And I see this as an evolving thing. We will do it and learn some things, I'm sure, and come back and make some changes as we go along. But I think it's important to get a stake in the ground here, and I think this is certainly sufficient. So I support it as presented.
Tim?
Yeah, I think my fiddling with what I was looking for and handed to you, I think most of it was incorporated. Like as Sam said, I could quibble about this or that, but I think largely you covered the intent that we were trying to get across. And if we need any other adjustments, we have the option in the future.
Sure.
AD?
I don't have any comments. I'm ready to sign off on them. I think that after these approved, I mean, one thing that would be useful is if there's a sign at the swap shop that just like, you boil it down to the 2 or 3 most important things. Please do this, please don't do that.
That's the
Because
point.
this is too lengthy and
That's
complicated.
the point. Yeah.
AP?
I think it's great, and thank you, Bill, for taking the time to collaborate with us, and I think we came out with a good document.
My pleasure.
Right, I'm also fine with it. So, AP, you want to make a motion? AD, you second?
I move that we approve the transfer station rules and regulations.
Second,
All in favor? All right, there you go, Bill. 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, MWRA loan approval.
So you may recall that at the last annual town meeting, we had an article on there pertaining to the Presidential and Fisher Road water line looping. We've been working with the Park Corporation on the design of a looping of the water line. Generally speaking, from a design perspective, it doesn't make sense to have 2 dead ends next to each other for a number of reasons, pressure reasons, bacteria buildup reasons. This would improve circulation by connecting these 2 water lines that are several hundred feet from one another. The trick is it does go under the CSX railroad. So we're at a point where we're ready to start permitting with the railroad. So back to the article, town meeting authorized us to submit an application for $1 million to fund the construction of this looping project. So we have our application in. The MWRA asked that the select board vote to basically substantiate the application. So that's why we're here tonight.
That's great. If I remember how to do the math real quick, as far as an annuity, personally, I think that this interest-free loan probably saves us over $400,000 in total. So it's a lot of money. So this is not a trivial thing to be able to get an interest-free loan.
No.
Right? Okay, I gotta read. We gotta do 4 different votes here. Okay, so I'm just gonna read as fast as I can. We'll vote one at a time. So can you do I'll do the motion, you do the seconding, okay? we'll go
I
start
think
this
that's the easements you're talking about, Kathy.
Brian, do you want to help out on this?
No, this is 4 votes. I called and I said, vote, 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 vote.
That's the financial side. I'm not.
Yeah,
What?
that's financials, but you can vote it as presented in, you know.
Okay, we are voting on this, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
But you can, you don't have to read the book.
all right, so I'm just gonna say voted as listed here on the vote of the select board. Okay, thank you, Brian.
Yes, sure.
Okay, all right, so the motion is that we approve the vote of the select board and all the details included in the document that was in our packet to enable this loan to be approved by the MWRA.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Right, good, Bill, that saved us 15 minutes. Thank you, Brian. Okay, so that was done, Bill. Next one is one that Andrew Pfaff has been working on for quite a while. He's also assigned the goal of looking at the Stormwater Enterprise Fund, so I'm going to turn this over to you, and to Bill, as far as how you want to do this.
Sure. This short presentation that Vanessa can put up.
Can I just give a 2-second intro?
Yeah, please.
As you all know, we deal with infrastructure pertaining to drainage. That includes everything from the street drains and the roads to subdivision stormwater infiltration basins or detention basins. The DPW is responsible for maintaining those structures. Under the Clean Water Act, we have an obligation to do annual maintenance and reporting on stormwater generated within the town of Southborough. We get a permit every year. It's called an MS4 permit, municipal separate storm sewer system permit. So every year the EPA comes out with new requirements. There's been discussions under this newly coming permit on some things that might be a heavy lift at some point. Replacement of drainage catch basins, for example. Currently, we don't have a lot of what are called deep sump catch basins, which cleans the water as it goes through the chain, as it heads towards the rivers and streams. So with that, you know, we utilize the funding in our budget to get those things done. And it's always an afterthought or something that we put off until we have to do it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Andrew.
Yeah. So yeah, as Bill said, this is something that all communities do. I think it's something I've been working on since 2020, maybe 2019.
One time.
Yeah, back when in the advisory days. But basically, yeah, this is an overview. It's not an uncommon process, especially not in Massachusetts. Massachusetts has about 30 or so towns that do it. In the rest of the country, it's very common. But basically this would take, like we do with our water enterprise fund, you would create a stormwater enterprise fund and you would shift the costs of stormwater into this, which would cover, you know, your street cleaning, your drainage bases cleaning, your drainage, your culvert repairs, all that kind of stuff into, you know, the enterprise fund. And then those costs would be allocated to the property owners, not based on assessed value of the property, but on how much impervious surface they have. And there's different, you know, ways you could do that, but it's basically done off of a calculation of the information. And we actually have an impervious surfaces data layer from GIS that we got in 2021 as part of an MVP, municipal vulnerability program grant, where they actually set up an airplane that scanned the whole town. And so we have that data available that we can basically tell you, you know, for your property, how much is your driveway, your roofs, you know, all that kind of stuff. And we know what the actual percentage is. There's different ways to simplify that, especially for the single family homes that we'll get later. But, you know, Ashland does this, Westboro, Northborough is starting to do it. So it's, you know, pretty common around us. This doesn't, you know, and we can go into the pros and cons of it. This doesn't bring in new money. It just shifts the methodology of how you're paying it. And we'll get into what that does for the town of Southborough in the coming slides. Go to the next one. So this is just kind of why you would do it. I won't drain the slide, but, you know, predictable funding, dedicated. The money that would go into this fund would be outside of the levy capacity. Cost sharing is fairer because it's more closely tied to what you're actually, you know, the cause of it. Capital planning too, you know, it's a revenue stream, so it makes it easy to do the multi-year culvert drainage, et cetera. It also, we can create what's called best management practices, which we can reward homeowners or property owners for if they have on-site discharge systems, dry wells, et cetera. You can get a discount in your fee. So it's better for a runoff in terms of the whole town. And then greater transparency, you can see exactly what these costs are and how they go to each individual property. Okay, next one. So this is a summary based on data from a couple of years ago, but it's directionally accurate. Basically, how would it look like today on what percentage of the property by property type would be via assessed value, and then what it would be over impervious surface. So as you can see, the number we usually have is 87% of the town is residential. That's the multifamily 4+, and the residential non-multifamily 4+ there. It's the largest, assessed value portion of the town. That's where most of the taxes go. But this would shift the cost from the residential to, the residential non-family would go down 30%. And then, the exempt properties, nonprofits, et cetera, because this is not a tax, they are not exempt from the fee. And then, commercial would go up and industrial, et cetera. So it would basically, shift the burden from the residential properties to the commercial, industrial, and exempt properties. Okay. Then there's, when you get into the residential properties, there's different ways you can go about doing it. Different towns do it different ways. You can do the exact numbers, which, you have a little bit more data upkeep in terms of, okay, somebody, changed their gravel driveway to a paved driveway. We need to update that. Or you could do tiers. You could do every house is basically one unit, or, a flat fee, et cetera. I think, down below the best practice is often a hybrid. So I'll go into kind of my suggestion and how we've been looking at it. Next one, Vanessa. So this is kind of how you break it down, and kind of what my recommended option would be kind of how Westford is set up, which is 4 to 5 single family residential tiers based upon kind of which area you fit into the impervious area square footage. Next one. And this is basically how we would, this is what Westford does, which is, again, this is the 5 tiers and kind of what their annual fee is. So again, you would get this bill either in your water bill or in your property tax bill. You can include it in there, and we can decide whether or not it's a quarterly, semi-annual, annual, et cetera. Different towns have different models, but it just basically is a regular bill, just like your water bill. Next one, Vanessa. And then this is kind of how Southborough would break out based upon how I would recommend the tiers. The median impervious surface for single family is 4,870 square feet, and the average is 5,800. So that's kind of where the C typical and the largest distribution is there, and kind of what a recommended factor would be in terms of how much what equivalent residential unit you would do. So anything over 8,500, you basically pay twice what a regular house would be. And then this is kind of how you would break out recommended the other areas. So single family residential, you'd kind of handle it. It's more simplified because that's the number of properties. It kind of, helps you in terms of, you're not really disputing this little changes you might have on the property or whatever, unless it's going to get you into a different tier, but it's not going to make a huge impact. So it saves us on the admin. And then the other properties, we can either do the same kind of residential tiers for the multifamilies, but the larger, kind of impervious areas, we could do actually off of the, actual impervious area that we have from either the scan that we did or from, when the planning board or ZBA, reviews site plans. That all has the impervious area calculation in it. So we would have that information readily available for any new large property. And then this is just some of our peers. Again, Westford does the 4 single family, Chelmsford's flat, Shrewsbury's 3, Bellingham is 1 here you, and so it kind of breaks it out. And then this is just a little information on why our tax exempt institutional properties and why this passes the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court's Emerson College test that they use, because it's, it's not considered an actual tax, it's considered a fee. And then these are some possible credits you can do, as I talked earlier about the BMP, the best management practice. So some towns do, 20 to 50% discount based upon, whether, you could do low income, senior relief, new construction, different kind of ways to do policy and affordability enhancements. And then the last one, this is kind of trying to estimate what we think an annual revenue would be for the enterprise fund. It's a little bit hard to judge. We need to kind of go line by line. I know this is some of the other towns around us, kind of where they're at. My estimate is roughly between 650 and 900 a year in gross receipts. I think when we were looking at Willow Street before we got the grant, I think it was like 307,000 for debt service on that a year. So again, that's just one culvert. So it can add up pretty quickly. So I think we're in the realm of it being sizable enough that this would, you could move some significant dollars here and there. But again, if the board is amenable, we can go a little bit further into the next steps in terms of actually going line by line and calculating this. Also, you can attribute the indirect costs. So the time it would take Brian to do the billing, or Bill or whoever's on staff, you can allocate the indirect cost. Different towns have different methodologies, but it's usually 80 to 100,000 of indirect costs you can allocate that you would be paying out of the general fund anyway. And the next one. So in terms of next step, again, defining, how would we want to do this? What indirect costs would we want to do? Making sure we, get the accounting requirements and review it with town council and finance department. Just validating the impervious data layer, which we got a couple of years ago. So just adding in some of the new properties and making sure we have it linked to the right properties. Then there's possibility of our stormwater consultant, CEI. They'd be willing to work with us in terms of validating the numbers and coming up with the actual calculation of what we would want to shift over and kind of putting together, a longer term plan in terms of what the capital is. And I think that also dovetails into the work Bill's doing with the cameras and inspection of all the drainage system. And eventually we could do like we did with the road plan, where we kind of have a full inventory of all of our assets from a drainage perspective. And we can kind of, other towns did this where like we have $150 million of stormwater infrastructure in the town, and this is how it's broken up and this is how often it needs to be replaced. So you can kind of get your own capital plan like we do with water. We have a good water plan, but I don't think, Bill, we have a stormwater plan like we do with water.
We're more driven by the regulations that are coming now.
But yeah, so then it's, model the rates, design the credits, appeals, relief, whatever we wanted from like a BMP or et cetera credits. And then, public process, education, and then going to town meeting. Some towns, what they will do is have just create the enterprise fund in town meeting before they get through. How are we going to do this? What are the amounts going to be? Just to kind of entertain whether or not the town thinks it would be a good idea to just create the fund, and then you can get through the exact details. That's what Northborough did. They did the fund about a year before they did the actual rollout of the whole program. So that might be a suggestion, or we can kind of put it all into one town meeting and kind of approve it there. But that's where I'm at today.
I'm surprised that voters would approve just a shell enterprise fund without knowing the details of how it was going to be implemented. But I guess they did.
Well, I mean, you're not funding it, you're not creating a budget for it, you're just creating the legal entity of it to do something with, like we did for the special education, stabilization fund. We created it, we haven't funded it. So we can't, town meeting would obviously get to vote on what the budget would be for the stormwater enterprise fund, just like they did with the water enterprise fund.
But they wouldn't necessarily vote on whether to do, alternative 1, 2, 3, 4, as far as how to allocate it among the class, right?
Yep.
So that's what I would think the voters would be interested in. Okay, so we're not going to vote anything tonight. This is just the start of this conversation. So I think the earliest we could probably expect to bring this forward would be March 20th, as far as either doing what Northborough did, establishing the fund, and then working out the details later, or having it all ready to go. But to me, the most interesting number is going to be once we've got the cost together, know what they are, and basically extrapolate it out, what the shift really is between residential and commercial tax exempt, et cetera. Because to me, that's the main reason to do this. because it's going to force the tax exempts to, make a payment that they otherwise don't have to make currently. And so, the select board has for what, 3 years now said, that's our major goal, is to try to shift taxes from residential side to commercial by expanding the commercial tax base. This really wasn't part of it at that point, but I think to me, that's the next step, is to get the consultant to help us truly project the cost that would be part of this for the next 5 years. Remember one meeting, when Al Hamilton was on the select board, we had a conversation about what the hidden cost of fixing all of the stuff that we can't see underground. And it was $100 million is what got thrown out that night, as far as culverts, because they're all collapsing, they're so old and what they're made of, et cetera. So you could end up with a pretty big cost in this at some point if we really do end up with this doomsday as far as having to truly fix a whole lot of culverts at one time.
Culverts and drains, and I know a lot of the roads that were put in the nineties use corrugated pipe that at this point in time is probably rusted.
It's the corrugated metal pipe that's the problem. Like John Street, we just spent $1 million redoing John Street, and those pipes failed.
Yeah.
And that's going to be occurring on different areas in town. So it was just the timing that was the technology at the time. So now we have better technology, longer lasting technology. Deep sump catch basins clean the water as it goes through the system. You can have oil water separator hoods in the structures. That keeps all the bad things in the catch basins. And then, of course, the state and the feds require that we clean the catch basins annually. And that's a ticket of, $30,000 per year that we pay to have them cleaned. And then we have to pay for the disposal of the material. So it's just, they're putting more and more unfunded mandates is what it is.
Yeah, we definitely got plenty of those. So Andrew, this is your goal. So I would say you continue to move us forward on this as far as what next steps are. Work with Bill to, I guess, gather the cost. So we
Yeah, I
really
mean,
see what we're talking about.
I
here.
would just kind of ask for a straw poll that select board thinks it's worth investigating further, and we can work with Bill to see what we want to do, but.
Yeah, if that's okay.
It's okay. So straw poll, Sam, are you interested in continuing the discussion?
It makes a lot of sense, and I think that the issue for me is also, as Bill mentioned, the state and federal government are getting tighter and tighter in terms of regulations on this. So if anything, this is going to get more expensive, more difficult for us. And funding mechanism, I think, makes a lot of sense to have it related to the cause, which this does, which we have not done historically. And it also seems to me it would be helpful, Bill, as you think about this, to at least at a high level, think about, what is the backlog out there? What are we likely to be facing? How does this fit in terms of making that expenditure work over the next 10, 20 years or whatever, or the numbers we're talking about, something that can pay for the cost of this over an extended period of time. My bet is it'll be a stretch, but at least that's a useful view of the structure there. So
It's a tool. Yeah.
I'm interested, as a taxpayer, I want to know that I can make a reasonable dent in this for these numbers. So I think it's a great idea.
And I assure you, we're not going out looking to do these things. These are things that are being imposed on us.
Tim, are you in favor of continuing this discussion going forward to the next two?
I'm lukewarm at best right now on this. I think it's a tax or potential tax on top of other things, even though it's not billed as a tax or written down that way. I think it's a slippery slope to add another fee onto the tax base in town. So I would have to have some strong, I'd be willing to consider it further, but I need to see kind of the structure of how this might pan out, that it doesn't become a fee on top of the levy not going down, or the amount that we need to raise from taxes going down to offset what this should pick up. So I really would have to see more to want to support this, but today I'm lukewarm at best to even want to consider this.
I mean, we are paying it in our taxes now,
Yeah, I understand that.
just moving it out of the tax base and into a separate fee.
I understand that, but then we still have to pay more things. And then since it's not in the tax base, you're like, oh, here's another fee to pick it up. Like, I think it's a slippery slope to be going down. And I am concerned about moving what's currently in a tax-based thing that's under other controls into a separate fund that has potentially less regulation, plus the taxes can go up as well. It's just a way to separate two different things from where it's funded from now. Saying your taxes could potentially go down, I understand they could, But taxes could stay the same and you still have another fee to pay. So I'm kind of concerned about that second split of this idea. I'd have to see what guardrails we could put in place to mitigate that concern. But I think that there's a potential here that we could go back to the tax base and ask them for more money and not lower the taxes.
Well, that's definitely not the intent. AD?
I think we should continue the conversation. I applaud you for putting together the presentation. This is gone. I know you've been talking about this for
Since
years.
we were on advisory together.
Yeah, so it's great that you put in the energy to bring it to this stage. You know, I think some of the big ideas we've been kicking around for a while, maybe it's worth just bringing it to town meeting. If the town meeting votes to accept it, great. If not, it is what it is. But, you know, we've been, rather than just talking about trying to find other non-tax revenue sources, maybe we can try to develop some options and present them to town meeting and see what happens. I mean, the concern you're expressing there, I think the key difference is, like, take, for example, on the warrant for the last couple of town meetings where there's been some big expenditures which are borrowed for Willow Street, John Street, some of these big culvert projects, Northborough Road culvert. There would be a broader pool funding those rather than just residential and CIP taxpayers. So the funding sources would be different. I guess a couple of questions that I have as you start to think about it is, so couple of things. One, from the experience of other towns, have there been observations about problems with it or negative things about it? How do you collect it if someone just doesn't pay? Like, if, you know, there's very defined ways. So if someone doesn't pay their property taxes, how that gets dealt with, or water bills. But if someone just didn't pay their stormwater management fee, what would be the town's recourse?
It does have something in the town hall, the code.
Yeah.
I think it's references.
That
Chapter 87, I can't.
Yeah,
remember.
whatever the one that we talked about the other day.
We spoke with town council and they
Mhm.
referenced this section. And we do have it in our town code that allows the town to use non-issuance of permits and for lack of payment of fees and tax. So it's a tool,
Yeah.
not something that.
I mean, it's something that will happen mainly because if the bill is, if it's an annual bill, I know it's the big question would be like, what's the average annual bill? But if you're saying it's like $100, $200 a year, you could see someone just not paying it, just they forget. It's just something that comes in the mail, didn't get around to it, you know?
Back up the water on their property if they don't pay for it.
Well, that's, if water, there's I actually don't know. Is it, if you just never paid your water bill, if the town shut off your water?
We can't.
Okay,
Yes.
so then, but here there's not a similar direct, you know, way you can enforce it. So that's one thing to think about. I think, you know, like I think about if you translate what you just had to, you know, a presentation at town meeting, you'd need to really like get into detail about the stuff that Al talked about before, just what are the kind of unfunded liabilities we have for these culverts that are under the ground. We don't, you know, they're just ticking time bombs that are gonna collapse, and then we need to.
This puts it more of a, you know, planning phase as opposed to a reactionary phase. Yeah.
Yes.
So again, town meeting will decide, but I still think I'm all forward with going forward with it. So thank you for this. Again, shifting whatever the number is, 29% of that, from residential over to exempts and commercials, I think would be something to look at. All right, so you got your strong vote.
Okay. Perfect.
All right, where's Marcy? I think that's where you are. Marcy glasses on. So Marcy, you want to call? I assume you've got a quorum. You want to call your? Wait a minute, no, we got one. Sorry, Marcy. I forgot one. Okay, sorry, Bill. Let's do the easements, and then we got the 2 houses for water. Sorry.
All right, so as we mentioned earlier, Willow Street is ongoing. We're still finalizing some permitting issues with the state. But we were approved at the last annual town meeting to accept some permanent drainage easements and associated easements along the culverts on Willow Street. We've got, working with the 3 landowners for the easements that we need. They did sign the draft, well, the final easements. And we presented that in your packet tonight for your vote on on accepting the easements and basically signing the easements so I can record it at the registry of deeds.
Simple as that, right? Okay, so town meeting's already approved us to be able to do this. We don't have to go back to town meeting for these type of easements. So anybody have any questions before I make the motion? So I move to accept the easements from Zealand Corporation, Furman Joint Venture LLC, and EIP Allied South Owner LLC.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. All right, so one more, Bill. You want to say
So
something?
you should have the original somewhere.
Yep.
Yep.
All set.
All right, so we'll get them signed. Okay, so there's one more that I'm moving up so that Bill can go home. So on the draft warrant, there is an article to extend town water to 2 houses on Parkerville Road. If you
Yes.
remember when we did the study as far as the landfill, the impact of landfill water, that the state recommended that we do that. The water was fine, but just as a belt and suspenders, it was recommended. So Bill has proposed putting that on the warrant for October 17th.
That's correct.
It would be paid for, it is a money article that it will cost money to do this, but the money will come out of the water fund, so it's not going to affect the tax levy for fiscal year 27.
That is correct.
Okay.
And again, the motivation here, just so everyone understands, we did sample the 2 houses that are adjacent to the landfill. They're private drinking water wells. Nothing showed up in terms of contaminants in those wells. Starting next calendar year, the DEP is going to ask us to include PFAS as part of that sampling. Now, PFAS is a slippery slope, and I would advise, and the reason we're considering this is avoid doing that so that we can solve that problem by extending. Really, it's when you say water line, it's going to be a service line that goes to these 2 dwellings that are, within 500 feet of the landfill. So the landowners are all receptive to allowing us to do this. They want to connect to the public water. So this article, I'm currently having PAR do the cost estimating now, so that we'll have that number. But it's really to mitigate the potential for a problem if we find something with regard to PFAS.
The PFAS testing we've got to do in the future includes testing those 2 wells?
The DEP would mandate us to sample those two wells in perpetuity for not only our current landfill sampling parameters, but also PFAS. Now, PFAS is something that's readily available within people's houses. Teflon tape, which people commonly use on their bathroom fixtures, contains PFAS. So it wouldn't be unreasonable to get a hit on PFAS.
So by doing this, we would eliminate
Avoid
that
that
issue.
ongoing
Okay.
sample. So,
All right, so we're going to talk about this more when we get to the warrant, but at least while Bill's here, he wanted him to explain what was going on as far as that goes. Okay. Any questions on that one?
Yes.
No?
So I'm all in support of it, but I'm just curious whether when you put up the service line, does the homeowner have to pay any cost to actually connect it?
we're gonna absorb the connection fee as part of this project,
Okay,
but they will pay their regular usage fees.
okay, so we'll pay for the pipes going all the way into the house. Correct. Okay,
And those 2 are what the state pointed out, right? So therefore, the other neighbors don't have the same argument these 2 do, right?
It's only because of their proximity to the landfill.
Okay, all right. All right, everybody happy with everything from Bill? Okay, so thank you. Mr.
Thank you. Have a good night.
thanks, Phil.
So Marcy, do you guys want to come on closer?
So we approved the land, we approved the bond. And we approved the 3 reasons, right? We, okay, good. It was, yeah, some of the documents referred to as a bond, that's not really a bond.
Just calling the advisory meeting to order. We have 4 members present, myself, Larry, Tim, and Eric is on Zoom. I can bring him over.
Eric is on Zoom and Barry's not here.
Barry and Howard can't make it tonight, but send everybody something.
Mr. Martell, I haven't seen you in person in forever. Hello.
In a long time.
Really? Almost don't recognize you with the glasses on. All right, so what we are trying to accomplish tonight is an agreement between the advisory committee and the select board as far as what the budget process for fiscal year 28 is going to be, what it's going to look like, what we're going to ask departments to put together as far as budgets go. And I say budgets plural this time for a reason. And then also to discuss the ways that we're going to deal with an override if that's what we end up with. Right now, we've only got $700,000 of excess levy capacity going into fiscal year 28, which is not very much. So without some significant budget cuts, we probably will end up with an override. So we need to talk about that too. So Brian's up here with us to kind of lead this discussion. So hopefully that's what we end up with as far as at least understanding the process we're going to undertake. And we'll start this early because of the potential override. So we've got time to, if that's where we end up, explain it in a way that hopefully by the time people get to town meeting, they understand what they're voting on. So far, so good, Mercy?
So far, so good.
Okay, so I'm looking at you. Okay. Chime in when you need to. Okay. All right. So, Brian, I would think we want to start out with maybe what we want to ask the departments to put together as far as budgets, what to include, how many to do it, what the characteristics of those budgets should be, right? Normally, we don't ask for multiple budgets. We have, but normally we don't. So this time I think we may have to differ. But just to refresh everybody's memory, Andrew Nelson, who is the Department of Revenue person who, there's 2 other Andrew Nelsons in the state. They each have a third of the state under their jurisdiction. And on top of that, Andrew Nelson has kept 11 towns, I believe, specifically that he works on. We're one of those. So he knows Southborough very well and has worked on this town for a long time. He's from Holden. He has recommended in the event that there's a need for more levy capacity, an override. He has recommended that you put together at least 2 budgets that you present to town meeting, and you do them in a certain order. You put together your quote unquote normal budget that you would have put together without the override. And then second, you put together a budget that would end up with not needing an override. You present the bigger budget first on the warrant, is what he said, and see when the vote goes. If that one votes, you just table the second one. If it doesn't pass, then you go to the second one. So that's what he explained to do. Now, I've seen other towns, I've looked around, they've done more than 2, so you can do 10, but boy, that sounds confusing to me as far as trying to explain that at town meeting. So we got to decide on how many budgets we want the departments to put together, knowing that that's probably what may end up being presented on the warrant as far as the budget article or articles. So Marcy, I'm going to pause when I'm talking to see if you want to add anything to this.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that advisories had 2 meetings in the last 2 weeks to discuss the budget process. And we're highly in favor of exploring all options and ensuring that we have adequate assessment, analysis of all the numbers before proceeding to override. If, we understand that would be some better work, and we understand the possible need. But we did speak as a group about encouraging alternatives to override.
AP, we need to add?
No, I think it's, coming up again, I think 2 budgets makes sense. I think anything more is going to be confusing the town meeting. I think it's, as far as you said, getting to the needing no override, how do we do it in the least painful process and making sure that we dig into that in each area. I would caution to just a flat, like, hey, everybody needs to reduce their budget by, 10%. Because there's some departments that are, just one person and, so it's one of those, like, what do we do in that case? So I think, going budget by budget, seeing which ones have increased by not just, the COLA increase and kind of looking at that, as opposed to a blanket ones. I think, to your point, Marcy, digging in and actually analyzing each one and giving each area a target. If we get to that point, I think it makes more sense. But yeah, I think it's directionally accurate.
Hey, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. If you present a budget to town meeting that requires an override vote, then we've got to have a 2/3 vote for that at town meeting also, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
So it's going to be a heavy lift as far as getting that, the budget through. That's where we go. Al, anything you want to add?
Yeah, this is not a normal budget year, and I think, we're at the point where I think some of the chickens are got to come home to roost. I think we have avoided making some hard decisions about how we organize ourselves, about what are absolutely essential services. And if you want to simply asking town meeting to expand the levy capacity so that we can continue to operate business as usual. And by the way, you folks only control about 30% of the budget, as you know. So I think we have to have a bigger discussion than simply, departments, and this is how much money we're going to have. I think we really have to have some serious conversations about how we organize ourselves, whether, I'm going to pick on the police department for a second. This runs throughout the institution. We decided that we needed sworn officers to review body cam footage. Well, that's the most expensive way to review body cam footage. And, there's dozens and dozens of these, and so of this type of activity. By the way, I do applaud Andrew's work on the water fund. I think it's definitely worth serious consideration. So the third thing I think I would recommend to this body is I think you need to very seriously consider a hiring freeze, because I think it's inappropriate to bring on a new employee when their sources of funding are insecure, and our sources of funding are insecure, more so than in normal years. I frankly don't think an override would pass. People I've talked to are not happy about their tax bills. And by implementing a hiring freeze, you actually end up protecting the staff that remain, because we have at least some flexibility to move positions around in the event that we don't have an override. And so I think you should seriously consider a hiring freeze. I think, and by the way, this applies to all of the executive boards, not just the select board, that you need to review every position worked. Is this an opportunity for consolidation? Is this, what exactly are the roles and responsibilities of this function, and are there alternatives to that? This is the sort of thing, I've been through this song and dance 5 or 6 years times in my professional career. I'm sure some of you guys have as well. And whenever I've had to be involved in a reduction of some sort, the things we were asked to do didn't change. The mission didn't change, but we had to figure out how to do it with less resources. And put your thinking caps on, ask whether you really need to do something. I think it's going to be a heavy lift frankly, for Mark and his team. But if you want to convince the voters that you've done everything possible to bring out efficiency out of the organization, then you've got to do these sorts of things. I'll get off the soapbox now.
No, it's okay. But let's just be perfectly frank as far as what we're talking about here. The only way to cut costs in this town realistically is to cut headcount. I mean, it's all about headcount. You gotta pay your debt. You've got some other fixed costs you gotta pay, but it's 85% salaries, right? So that's what we're talking about here. So let's just put it on the table. As far as trying to come up with a budget that would not require an override and would use the current levy capacity. As far as the hiring freeze, we've talked about that when you were on the select board. We will talk about it again, but timing wise, we could implement a hiring freeze, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to solve your budget problem for fiscal year 28, because you've got to have someone actually leave and have a position that won't be filled in. Who knows when that's going to happen, right? So you can't project that. We could basically say we're going to do that, and that might help convince people we've really tried to tighten our belt here, but you wouldn't be able to put that in a budget because it's not reality yet. We can say no more new, we can say again what we did last year, no new hours, no new people. That's not that hard to do, which I think we probably will end up agreeing with tonight. But as far as incorporating a hiring freeze into the budget process when they haven't left yet, I don't see how you do that. You can announce you're going to do it, right? But it's not going to affect the budget.
Something on the order of 110 municipal employees. And, average tenure is 30 years or so. So, we can expect some amount of turnover. It's a fact of life. We didn't know. You don't get to choose who decides to move on, who decides to retire, who decides to move to greener pastures. But when those events happen, you don't replace those until after there's been a serious review, because those are the opportunities. We blew it when we didn't have a serious conversation about merging the senior center with the youth and family services and having a social services organization rather than maintaining these two silos. So these, hiring freeze doesn't mean you don't necessarily replace somebody, but it does mean that before you replace them, you have a serious conversation about what does that role do? Is that the best way to get that role done? And this is, if you can't do that, then there's no reason to support an override. You've got to show that you're really serious about thinking about how we organize our town for the next 30 or 40 years, because, I've said this before, we have the best 1950s department store organization that money can buy, but, we aren't Amazon. My one attempt at trying to automate a process was, frankly, got the slow nose. And, so those, we got to get a lot more serious about these sorts of things. I'll get off the soapbox.
No, you're not, but I don't, then we'll turn to everybody else. But what I'm trying to say is, for the budget that we bring forth on March 20th, at that point, we don't know where that vacancy is going to occur. So we still have to possibly cut a position to get to that balanced budget. And then maybe if someone leaves in the interim, you can then restore it. You could do that, but you still got to, at that point, have that budget balanced if we are going to go forth with a budget that doesn't require an override.
Right, but we've got 8 or 9 months, and there will be some turnover over the period of 8 or 9 months. And when those positions become open, they should not automatically be refilled. And because, you might, at a bare minimum, not fill them until you were certain that an override was going to pass.
Okay, and then to make sure everybody understands your comment about we only control 30%. The schools are obviously the biggest part of the budget, right? We don't have line item authority over the school budget. We can say, this is your pot of money. You decide how to divvy it up, but they do the divvying up as far as what they fund, et cetera. So we don't have the control over that piece of it. We do with everything else. So everybody's going to keep that money too.
Yes, as I said, the select board only controls about 30% of the town's budget. It's important 30%. It's the visible 30%. And in fact, when we started doing work on the budget policy, one of the things that we we really focused on is that the budget policy is more than simply the board of select board. It's, the 600-pound gorilla in the room are the schools. And so they need to be a part of that budget policy and budget development policy. So, but yes, the same message goes to the schools, which is, I would not, you probably have to hire teachers. But if you got any other open position, I would, because, their turnovers is, they get the same turnover. And, I'd time to tighten your belt and see, if there are better ways to organize ourselves and better ways to achieve the mission.
Could I add to that?
Of course.
While the schools are somewhat separate, I was doing some research into other towns that have successfully pitched and obtained overrides. And some of them have done MOUs so that the schools are not excluded and the schools are included in terms of the finance committee, select board, and the schools agree that these are the elements that are in place should an override pass, so that it's all understood up front, and so that many towns have included the schools, and Marblehead is the best example that I could find of that. The MOU is very well done there.
Interesting. Okay, so with that as our overarching discussion, Brian, and help with us. I think that what we've got to start doing is being very specific tonight about what budgets we are going to put together for fiscal year 28, so that we can get that message out to the department. So we start working on those, 2 months, 3 months before we normally do, right? Because of the issue with the lack of levy capacity for fiscal 28. Does anybody disagree with that as far as what we need to start off with tonight, as far as accomplishing what I think we got to leave here with?
Are we saying that we will have a budget presentation on what would be needed for an override proposal, basically, and a budget that would require,
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out. How many budgets are we requiring the department? So we go to the departments and say, okay, this is what we want you to do. We want you to come up with a level service budget. We want to come up with no increase in your budget. So we just got to decide what that specific message is going to be that Brian is going to send out to the departments after we leave here, so they can start putting this together. So then we see what it looks like when it all comes back to us earlier than what we normally do.
I mean, I think 2 is the right number. Anything else is going to be cumbersome and confusing. I think level service with, relook at everything that could be not tied down, right? This is, Indiana Jones throwing stuff out of the plane here. What weighs a lot that we can get rid of that's not going to crash the plane. So I would say level service with take a second look, hard look on whatever you could cut. That's not critical to their function, right? And to produce those services. So everybody should take a fine tooth comb to their budgets. And they're obviously going to have different targets for different areas, because there's different areas are just salaries. And I don't think it's fair that we have, collectively bargained people that are going to get an increase, but then SAP wouldn't. So I think, you're going to keep that COLA kind of in there. And then the other one is, again, we have to go back and see how do we get down to whatever the number is, only a $700,000 increase, and how would that look if we spread it out, and where are the areas that we would want to focus on and kind of, assign a target to. And I think we'd have to come up with a target by department and say, need to get down to this number. And, I think we can be creative in how we allocate that out, but I think that's kind of the two that we do.
So I agree with the level service as far as the one budget, right? Brian, makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. I just don't know if you cap that. If you want to say we don't want to see a budget that says 7% in front of it. We want to see a budget that's level service, but no more than 5%, 4%. I don't know.
I mean, level service is COLA and contractually obligated salary increases, period.
Well, think about the library budget last year. It was up, 8 or 9%, because they had programs that they needed to put in that they had lost or were grant funded, whatever. And they got it, right? They lowered it a little bit in the end, but they had a lot of programs that cost their budget to go up. So maybe what Brian's suggesting is that first budget is level service, but whatever you got to do, it's not going to be more than 3 or 4% more than the prior year. right?
The only line, unless there's, John Parent for facilities and utilities or whatever, but I think, library is a good example. If you had this much for programming last year, do not increase that. There's no contractual obligation you have to increase that number. That's just something you arbitrarily, want to do for programming.
Yeah, a lot of those programs do have grants that expire. They're trying to keep that program.
Didn't libraries specifically, weren't they gonna lose the ability to be part of the larger system if they increase their budget? That was the risk level, so that was why that budget was what it was.
You've got to maintain certain spending levels for books and
Yeah.
things like that in order to maintain your interlibrary loan status.
But the number was over that number.
Yeah, so library, maybe I'm picking library, but this is one that came to mind that definitely had things that increased besides salaries that, but that's the way up. Okay, so Brian's proposal is to do the first budget to be level service, no new hours, no new people at all, right? But then second criteria is to cap that overall increase at something, 3%, 4%. Number.
We went for 3% last year. And I mean, it was a target. Many people didn't hit it, but at least that was our target from last year. I think we should have the same aggressive target at that level services budget.
Do we know, Brian, approximately what the COLAs and step increases would be?
No, they haven't decided yet.
Right. Well,
Step increases are 2.
Well, I'm telling, they're there too, and they're
Yeah.
where they do COLA.
Yeah.
So we know it's gonna be 3, it could be 4.
We know what it is for the union agreements,
You
right?
do.
I think that would be where I would set whatever that number is on a weighted average, is kind of the number that.
I mean, I think 3 is a little pie in the sky, to be perfectly frank. I think 4 might be more reasonable, given what we know about what is in the CBA increases.
But reasonable and a target, I mean, I think we should be very, very conservative here and say 3% is the target. And we'd understand if the number is a little higher. But
Yeah, but we got a second budget coming that is gonna cut things, so.
well, that one's cutting. That one's not a level services.
But a level service that you cap at 3 might not be level service, because if you have a level like if you look at recreation, which is just salaries. That contract, that SAP increase plus step is probably 5%. So if you cap them at 3, that means they have to cut hours of those people or cut people. Right, so you have to legitimately give people a target that is attainable. On artificial 3, that's what I was trying to say, like, just look at salary increases. That is the increase you can have on your salary line. The other lines, unless it's contractually obligated increase for like licensings for J, or it's, utilities are going up because utilities go up, yes or yes, right? Other than that, it does not go up a penny. Like if you had training of $1,500 last year, I don't want to see anything more than 1,500. I don't want to see 3%. I want to see 0 or reduce it because you didn't use all that training last year and you artificially had it high. I think but I think you have to go, as I was saying, budget by budget to come up with that.
Didn't we do something similar? So in the last cycle, right, we did something similar where the message was for non-salaried items. There was a certain target. I don't remember what, it might have been just a 0% increase.
Yeah, and this is a starting point too. This is what we want to come in, then we start ticking at it,
And
right?
so like, I see the process as, I mean, the first responses to the budget requests come back, and that just kind of sets an idea of where we are, and then with the hard work of preparing I don't know which one would be budget A and which one is budget B, but the non-override budget. I don't see a practical way where because there's some really small departments where if you say we need to cut X%, the only way they can do that is by
People.
and they can't, the hard work of staff reductions in the non-override budget has to be done, I think, by combination of the select board.
Well, I agree. I don't think you expect a department to come back and say, I cut myself. So, thank you very much. But I still think if we do 4, right, as the cap, right? It doesn't mean they've got to do 4, but no more than 4. That would be a pretty good starting point for what we call the normal level service budget.
But
Well, so I think the message, rather than trying to put a percentage on it, is, yes, your level service budget includes, your contractual obligations, assuming that you need each and every contracted person's services, then, and by the way, you better be able to defend each and every person on there. And no new programs. If you've got a program that is expired, it's expired. It's not replaced with another program. It's expired. And so you can say things like that, because I think trying to put a number on it, I think you got to really sort of drive home the message that, this is serious as a heart attack. And you can proceed on that. Now, there is something you can do about the small departments. Because
We're gonna talk, I agree, so
well,
the
Sam
big
and I.
ones and the small ones aren't the same. We're gonna talk about what to do with that with the next one, because you can't say to Melissa Danza, cut 5%. She's it.
Well, so when Sam and I met with town council 6-8 months ago. And there are towns that do not have their town meetings approve budgets at the granularity that we do. They consolidate at a much higher level. Now that puts the monkey on your back to then manage those, but then again, that's why we elected you. Lucky you. But we could consolidate for the purposes of funding a number of smaller budgets, a single set of line items. And that would, again, that provides, more flexibility. And I think, in times when money is tight, flexibility is actually quite important. Did I remember that correctly, Sam?
Right.
You did. But to get to that combination, you still have to build it from the bottom up. You still got to get the departments to give you a budget to start with before you decide how you want to massage the numbers as far as how you was town meeting. So I agree.
Yes.
It's not like we put every line. We have 2 lines on each budget. Salaries and everything else. Okay, so I'm trying to stay on the path of the.
Larry had a question first.
Yeah, I was just something that you said that made me think about it a little bit. It's something that is just, or something that's just a little bit more draconian, is that level service is actually defined not based entirely on what you budgeted last year, but potentially on what you spent if it was less. So if you budgeted 1,500 and you spend 1,250 is your level service, not 1,500. And that will probably make people think much harder also.
And the problem with that is we don't have that number yet, so you'd have to go back to fiscal year 25 as far as the year that fiscal year 26. So you could go back, year before then, know what they spent, but the year we're in right now, we're only, barely started it. So you don't have that number yet as far as what they really spent. Totally agree with you. Andrew Pfaff and I, we've had that conversation. That's what you normally would do, is look at what you spent, not what you budgeted as far as where you start from, right? But we don't have that number yet. We don't know what they're going to spend. And most of our departments do spend their budget. Every once in a while, there's a few turnbacks. Schools never turn back a penny with their big budget. They find a way to spend everything. So I hear you, but we will not have the fiscal year 27 actual while we're doing this. So do you want to go back? Fiscal 26 would be a little bit stale, I would think. And there again, you could have things like the police. Chief Mill's not here. Right? He'll probably have a fit if he has to abide by that, because he had a bunch of vacancies that year. So he turned back a bunch of money that year. So he's going to say, that's not fair. I turned back money and then I'm getting penalized. Okay, hold on. He didn't have, but he's now got people filling those positions. So I don't know if that's fair. So I hear you, Larry. I just don't know how we do that when we don't have the number yet.
Yeah, I think you would do it on the non-salary line items. I mean, if it's the salary, I think we
But
separate.
what year? Fiscal year 25?
Salaries are, what do we have physically today? We know what each person's salary is. We know what their step is going to cost. We know we can come up with a COLA for the already decided on COLAs. And that's its own budget. We should be budgeting salaries almost centrally. I think Brian should do salaries for everyone.
I was focused on the non-salary
Correct.
lines for that more than the salary lines.
And we do review the current expenses, and there's some expenses that are front ended, you pay the whole thing at the beginning of the year, and you might still have budget in there. And I think we should ask the departments to go line by line in the non-salary lines and say, you know, are you going to use all of this budget? Yes or no? And if yes, you're not currently on track to do it, right? We're 3/4 of the way through the year and you've used 10% of it. Tell me how you're actually going to use it. In my professional background, what we would have done is we would have reduced this budget down to the 10%. And if we wanted to spend any more money, we would have them come to us. You basically, if you haven't spent it by the middle of the year, you would lose it.
Okay, but we're only a month into the new year.
But by the time we have town meeting.
Yeah, but by that time, our work's already done, so.
Well, the work doesn't, you know, by the time we actually sort of finalize the budget, we'll have had 7 months of actual expenses in the books. And so we'll at least have a reasonable estimate, and you can compare that against the patterns from prior years of, you know, how, you know, what percentage of budgets were spent in the first 7 months and you can, you know, so there are ways to try and make those estimates. So, I mean, Larry's right. I mean, you know, it's not what the budget is, it's what you actually spent.
Okay, so what we could ask the departments to do is look at what they spent for fiscal year 26. That's the last year that's been complete, right? And explain why you need more than that. Right?
Yes.
Do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, there's no hard and fast rules here. There are reasons why things change.
That's right. And if there's some reason that something should be different, you explain. So how about that, Brian? AD?
Well, I was just gonna say, I remember from the last budget cycle, for example, like I believe the police budget there was a 0% real term in dollar for dollar increase in the non-salary items, right? That was the request we made, and that was the request. So it is.
It could be true because the salaries is what was the.
Yeah.
So it could be true. But how about that, Brian? That's the mandate for budget A. We'll call this budget A. That, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do to your salaries as far as we'll give them the color to use, you know, for now. I mean, I think it's probably gonna be 4. So 4% for that, but then for everything else, go back, give them the number for fiscal year 26. Carla's probably pretty close to having books all closed, right? And this is your number unless you make a really good case that it should be something higher. Is that okay?
Yep.
Tim? Okay.
So do you want to institute that cap of 4%?
No, not
No,
cap. It's just
just-
salaries are salaries, and
Gotcha.
then everything
Wanna
else
make sure.
is.
Everything's fiscal year 26
26.
unless you've got a really good reason for it not to be.
And John's gonna come for the oil and gas, and one is gonna be like, I can't do what we spent in FY 26. Okay, that makes sense, John. We trust you.
There'll be exceptions for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
right?
but-
So we'll deal with exceptions.
Since Eric's online, I'm just going to ask Eric if he has any comment.
He's got his hand up.
I don't know. Any?
No, thanks, Marty. Nothing. That's great discussion. Nothing else to add at this point.
Okay, thank you.
That was Eric.
Yeah.
Did you say Barry?
Eric.
Eric.
Okay, I think you said Barry. Okay. Hello, Eric. That was very loud.
Oh.
That was very loud and clear. Okay. So Sam, you haven't said anything.
Okay.
Okay. Tim, Ling,
I'm skeptical, but it sounds like a reasonable approach to this option.
so we'll call this option A, right? This is our sort of level service budget.
The one thing I would ask is to the salary piece. So COLA already has a built-in increase. Are we allowing in this budget a built-in year-over-year increase? Sounds like the answer is going to be a yes, but is there an instruction we want to include in that perspective?
I mean, the rate schedule, I mean, you go up a step and you get your COLA. You go up a step, you get your COLA. I mean, we already know what each individual person, we're not going to allow people, I would think, to jump grades and positions. Promotions, I think that would
It's
be.
pretty much just a formula to fill in the data in the salary and spreadsheet. Still very.
And that's the smallest part of our employees anyway. Almost, I mean, 90-something% of our employees are governed by CBAs, schools, DPW, police, fire, custodians, et cetera. So the SAP rules are just very small part of the whole budget, right? So I'd say let's do 4% for now. Let's see, personal board's gonna decide this, right? And we've got to give them a number, because personal, so they're gonna go up a step, right? That's 2,
That's 2.
right? And then personal board's gonna decide what COLA is, right? At some point soon, I hope. I mean, inflation right now is 3.5%. That's what we're running, right? So I can't imagine they're not gonna say it's 2, it's at least 2, right?
I think one other thing to take into consideration is that we're in the, kind of at the beginning steps of a paying class study. And those results will probably be out sometime in the holiday season. So we'll have a final report and, there'll be recommendations for, adjustments for positions. I'm not sure what that would look like, but then, there'll be recommendations as to what we should do. And then this board is going to have to make some decisions as to how we handle those recommendations within the scope of what we're looking at.
So does everybody agree that for now, SAP employees' budgets can use 4% as far as increases, 2% for the step that they're gonna get, and then assume COLA is 2%? Below. Right?
I thought what we were talking about is just the salary item of the budget is just.
We have to give instructions to them what to use for the annual salary adjustment
Okay,
for the
okay.
union employees.
Okay.
Which
I
is
think that
a
makes
small
sense.
group of
4%
people,
good,
but
4%.
I mean, they're gonna get 2 anyway, and then they're gonna get a COLA, and inflation is 3.5, so that's 5.5. So I'm saying use 4, which I think is. It could be low. It's gotta be at least 4, Brian, right? Mark, Vanessa?
I would think so.
I mean, how can it not be
The
4?
other ones are around 3. But yeah, I think 4, and again, if whatever SAP does, we start at 4, and if it ends at 3, then great.
What other ones are around 3?
Police is 3, fire is 3, DPW, communications 2, and
Yeah,
town.
but they're gonna move steps too, so there's not just the 3, that's,
But the step is the step.
Yeah.
I want to separate COLA from step.
okay, well, we know, so I'm saying 4 in total. We know 2% is a step. I'm saying COLA is 2. So I'm not saying COLA 4, I'm saying COLA 2.
I think COLA is going to end up being 3.
I do
So then we
too,
should do
I do
5.
too, I do too, but I'm trying to get. I'm trying to get something we can all agree on, so I think it's gonna be 3 too, for the, it almost has to be because of what inflation is, or it's not a COLA, right?
Let's make it 5. Let's be realistic. If if the personnel board is going to vote 3% COLA, 2% step, which is in line with every other collectively bargained union.
They're not gonna vote 2% step, that's built into, that's done.
Correct.
Okay, so they're gonna vote COLA. That's
So
what they
this
vote.
would be the lowest COLA of any collectively bargained area. So I don't think that's fair to the SAP employees. So I think we use 5. So 3% COLA, 2%
It's
step.
about 45,000 per percent. See,
Okay, so yeah, 45,000 to put it in union, in step with the union employees. I think that's fair that we should use 5.
Okay, so we're trying to make a decision here. This is the instruction. Always, eventually, personnel board will tell us what it is, but we gotta use something for now.
It sounds high to me considering we're trying to.
But this is,
Reduce costs.
here's what I think about, it. This is just to first get an initial kind of set of numbers, but then the way to the budget A, if the budget A is the no override budget, assume that it's gonna have, there's gonna be positions eliminated, right? So it almost makes more sense to be more realistic about what the yeah.
Andrew just read that the COLAs are for the unions. They're 3, right? All the way through. So we're just trying to be fair to the SAP and say, do 3 for the SAP too.
I think, you do have turnover so that it's not a, there are people who are leaving at the high end and coming in at the low end. The second question I have is, at some point, we're turning on the rec, which is supposed to have, a non-trivial impact on our budget for the next 3 years.
Yep.
And I'd like, how does that factor into your expectations of a $700,000 levy capacity?
yes, we've projected that out and we took half, 520.
About 6 months.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because they think
6
it's gonna be
months.
effective 1/1/28.
Yeah.
So he's built that into the 5-year forecast, as far as the savings from that, starting 1/1/28.
So when you say that there's been a projection done that has the $700,000 excess levy capacity, is that?
That's not even a projection. That is where we are right now as far as the fiscal year 27 budget. It was 500 at town meeting, but the legislature gave us a little bit more money, so now it's up to 700. So we've got $700,000 levy capacity right now going into fiscal year 28. Whose budget is what we're talking about tonight? Normally, we have millions of dollars in that number.
But Brian, you have an FY 28 estimate that includes half of the dispatch,
Yes.
going
It
away.
exceeds-
And that was what, 2.6 million
Yeah.
over
Right.
levy capacity?
Right.
Right, so that's it already baked in. So we have 2.6 to make up on option B in theory. But option A, already kind of captures it.
I think I lean towards 4.5% for the SAP. We got to deliver a message here. That either we hold the line or, I can tell you right now that the world is not getting 5% raises out there in the real, in the private sector, unless you've got some very, very specialized skills, or you're a plumber, or know how to work with your hands. So you got to deliver the message. If you want to promise people 5% raises, you're going to have to stand in front of town meeting and say, we're giving people 5% raises. I don't think that's a good message when you're.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think what you're saying, Kathy, is that the salary raise will be 5%, but to make our target, there will be cuts,
And we're just trying to do that
right?
budget A right now, which is sort of the level service, what we're saying. And we're trying to understand what instruction to give to the SAP employees, which is the smallest bunch of employees we have, given you can't change what's in the CBA contracts. And those, we're trying to, Aaron and I are trying to get parity between the SAP and the
Right.
CBA.
What you're saying is we're not gonna get to the point where we don't need an override by lowering the 5% to a 4%.
No, not even close.
It'd be $40,000 a difference.
Right.
No, not even close.
We're gonna
Tim.
get to that point by saying,
that's
put your
it.
salary increase in as normal, and then we're gonna
Yeah.
look at your head count.
That's
Correct.
well said.
And other non-salary line items.
Yeah, I think you're just standardizing so that when we look at the budgets, we say, we know that everything in here that is not contractual under a CBA includes an overall 4% or 5% increase in that step and COLA. And if something else, the personnel board makes a decision differently and everything in that, we know the increment of change for every single one because everything in there is consistent. So I think it's just making sure that at least we agree on the starting point. I don't think that, saying we're setting at 4 or setting at 5, I think personnel boards really kind of come back and give you the number. But I don't think it's probably going to be one of those, for a COLA, it's either going to probably be a 2 or 3, or maybe a 2.5. So,
I'd rather start high and come back.
well,
Again,
it's always nice.
Jim said it perfectly. This is minuscule as far as the impact between 5 and 4 because it's such a small group of employees. So, okay, select board, okay, you're 5. Okay, Tim,
For the sake of what this one is, I'm calling it status quo, so. Whatever the math works out to be, I guess, I still say 4, but.
okay, so you're 4, that's fine. AD.
4.5?
Okay, we're trying to get a majority here. Okay, so now we got 3 numbers, so, 5, I'm 5. I've got 3 5s here, so we did a majority. Okay, so you do the same thing with advisory?
Tim? Larry?
Aye.
Al?
4.
Eric?
Hi.
Marcy's 4.
Hey, Eric, I don't know what you're talking into, but it is really loud, just so you know.
Is that better?
Well, it's still really
I think it's a
loud.
room.
I think it's on our side.
It may be.
It's the volume in the room.
But anyway, okay, so we've got split votes, but there were 3 5s and 3 5s. So 5% is going to be instruction for that. And then the other instruction is look at fiscal year 26, and that's your starting point, and you got to justify to what you need.
Actuals.
Yeah, actual fiscal year 26. That's the last year we've got actuals for. We're a year into, or a month into. Okay. So far, so good as far as the first budget?
Yep.
A, okay. All right. B. Okay, B is the one Tim just referred to. So this is the one we're going to have to, if you want to not have an override, we're going to have to cut over $2 million out of the A budget, right?
That's the fun one. So it's interesting that to just the projections now, which are draft and it's early, but you pretty much come very close to having to have a level dollar budget this year to make that over, to make.
Fiscal year 28 has to look like fiscal year 27.
Same bottom line.
It's very close. It just happens to be like almost really close. So
I was
you're
gonna say it's
basically
a zero.
saying, yeah, you're basically saying a 0% across the board.
That's because the debt has gone up, correct? Like, what's the driver for this?
That will be some of it. Yes, yes.
So what eats the 700,000 levy would be contractually obligated, what debt payments and
Yeah.
other things that we can't get out of. Then we had more free cash this year that we're probably not gonna have the same amount, so that's gonna eat into it, et cetera.
That too, yes.
So then that'll be the difficult discussion this year. I think Kathy, what you're suggesting is we're just gonna have that discussion a lot earlier rather than, we scheduled the budget summit for the first Saturday of January and then it gets postponed until the third Saturday.
I'm not sure we're gonna need a budget summit. This is, with what we're doing now, we probably don't need the budget summit. Okay, but there's assumptions baked into Brian's number. He's assuming $2 million in free cash. So that's low, so that should be attainable, right? Hopefully that's conservative. He's assuming that the local aid from the state is gonna go up 2%. That's pretty reasonable. It's always less than inflation, right? So that doesn't help us. That hurts us. That means more money comes from taxes. He's assuming 3.5% increase in local revenue, which is pretty reasonable. That's your excise tax is your big one, transfer station fees, building fees, et cetera, right? Costco will be built by then. He is using 5% to increase his operational budgets. That's what's built in here. 8% for benefits, healthcare, pension, et cetera. Capital, this is important. $1.5 million is built into this each year, except for the 2 later years, and that's $1.6 million. So $1.5 million. Is what you're assuming. So these are the assumptions that have been built in to try to build at least something we can work with here to see what we may be looking at as far as overrides.
I think we've accomplished something with at least getting the direction for the
A.
Okay. How should this be approached in terms of coordinating with schools? Because, ideally, this would be harmonious. We all have the same.
Well, let me say this. If the schools can't reduce their budget and none of it else matters. So it's nothing we can do. If 70% of it goes up by 5 or 6, 7%, which it very well could, Algonquin's gone up by that the last few years, then what we do is not going to matter. We can't get it down without truly just drastically cutting people on the non-school side. Drastically. So the schools have got to buy into this, and it's not like they don't try every year. Remember, Al, you were at this meeting. Remember when Paul Gaffney was chair of the school committee and he one day pounded the table with you? I was there, John Butler was there and said, we are always going to have 8% year-over-year school increases. I don't care what you guys say. You're not going to stop us. So that was what we dealt with a few years ago. Since then, with Christine Johnson, Greg Martineau, and even Charles Gravon, they were able to somehow make this work, because what would happen is older teachers that made a lot of money would retire and they replaced them with new teachers. That's what kept those salary increases down, because those teachers don't get 3% increases for the most part. When they're in the middle of stepping lanes and doing both, they are going up 7, 8, 9% a year. And what keeps it workable, at least so far, is that you've got older teachers peeling off and newer teachers coming in at a lower salary. So they've got to keep, that's got to keep happening.
For the last 20 years, we've had declining enrollments.
Yeah.
So we're actually delivering less service.
Yeah, but they haven't really cut a whole lot. Every year there's maybe 2 positions or so that they let attrition take care of. They haven't cut people. they may have to. So yeah, we've definitely got to get them on board, or what we're doing is for not.
Remember the budget that gets read onto the floor at town meeting is not the school department's budget.
Advisory, you know,
It's the monkeys on our back.
Total, right? And
Yeah,
that's what
and
it is.
so, I think the message to schools, which is not a fun thing to say, and I've got grandkids in our school system, and is that, budget B is zero.
Fiscal year 27, repeated.
Yeah.
And you know why that's so hard for them is special ed, which they cannot control and they have to fund. So that goes way up. Boy, do they have a problem. And they never know. They sit there and hold their breath till they know what that cost is going to be. The state puts more and more on the local school system to pay for that. So they've got, I mean, this is hard, but we can start and see what they can come up with, right?
Transportation
Yeah,
Norfolk.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, but 70%. Now, the difficult one is not the Southborough schools, it's the region.
That's right.
Because the region we have, we can be, I don't know how that's working.
If we vote no on the budget, then it goes to like a joint town meeting with Northborough, and then you vote it, but they would have, if they voted in favor of it, they would have more in theory.
Right, but I don't know can they force an override vote on us? Or would we have to find the money elsewhere?
Maybe you'd have to find the money elsewhere.
I think so too. I think so too.
Yeah, so.
So we definitely need the corporation, or not even we need them to understand what we're trying to achieve here and then let them, start working on this to see what they can come up sooner than later too, because theirs is always so late. We've got to get them going on this as soon as we can. To see where they think can come in.
It might be useful for you to pull your counterparts in Northborough to find out where they stand with respect to overrides.
I think they probably stand about the same place in view of the cliff as we do.
Okay. Well, they got the cliff house, so.
Yeah, I think, Brian, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah,
I think they're
I
looking at
just don't know the
things.
level over there where they're at, but.
Yeah, I think they, at least in the last conversations and that, they're in the same vicinity as we are. They're looking at having some hard conversations, I think, with the 28 budget.
If we go back to A for a second, doing 5% and then keeping everything else at fiscal year 26, unless you've got a reason to it, it's still probably going to be more than fiscal year 27, I think, right? So the A is still going to be more than B, but maybe not crazy far apart.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gonna be B is zero.
Well, you're right, but
Yeah.
since we're telling them that A's got to be fiscal year 26, that's not 27, that's even less than
But
27.
not for the salaries, which is,
Right, that's
which
what I'm
is
saying, so that will go
80% of our budget. So
That's why
80% of
that-
our budget goes up 5-6%.
Right, so that'll go up. So you're right, but it will be, there's a little bit of squeeze there because of what we're doing with the fiscal year 26. Okay, all right. Well, this was maybe easier than I thought. So does everybody agree on the two budgets we're going to ask everybody, including schools?
Well, I think we still haven't established what the B ask is. Obviously, it's no override, but
We're
I think
saying literally put together a budget that equals your fiscal year 27 budget, no increase.
It's gonna be a multi-step process, so we first get.
And
this
some can't do it, and so we'll have to address
But I
it.
think,
Some
but I
can't do
think
that.
that's the message to certain departments, to schools, to DPW, police,
big ones.
fire, that have a lot of moving parts that they can maneuver that. But I think you can't do that to conservation where you have
Yes,
one.
you can. Yes, you can. You.
But Al, there's only one number in there. It's Melissa's salary. That's what Andrew's talking about.
Then.
Brett has 3 salaries. That's it.
Sorry, I'm tired of these, special exceptions.
Okay, well, okay, then.
Aggregate those budgets into a single thing and say, this is the pool of money. And, you put together whatever you want, but this is the pool, aggregate that's within your span of control. We cannot have special exempt parts of the enterprise that are simply exempt.
I don't think they're exempt. I think they're just different. They're smaller and they don't have the flexibility that a police or a fire or DPW or certain schools do that have a lot of things in there besides salaries.
So that makes them exempt. No, they cannot be exempt.
Can I just
No,
add?
you may have to reduce hours.
I think that's an important point out. Given my day job, where we're always looking at ways to become more efficient, I would charge people with trying to solve problems by subtraction. So if you have the same amount of funds and you're gonna have the same amount of people, what are you not gonna do, right? To get to a certain number.
Okay, but
So
Marcy,
thinking
take
about
this,
that.
be realistic. Here's your example. Melissa Danza is literally the only cost in conservation. What are you gonna tell her to do?
Well, she would need to say like, with the same money, this is, something has to get, right? Like,
Gotta reduce her
I
salary.
know that.
She's got to voluntarily reduce her salary? That's what we're asking her to do.
Maybe it's not staff related. Maybe it's, operational. Like
She doesn't have any other
any.
line items,
That's what I'm trying to
just
tell you.
salary.
Okay, Rec has,
She doesn't.
look at the rec department. It's got 3 people on it. It's all salary. So you're telling people you got to reduce your salary. That's the only way they can
I
do
think
this.
Reduce hours.
because I remember Al and I had this meeting with Jay Tallerman where he explained what you were talking about, your discussion with Sam. Other towns do have, instead of, our budget is very long. It's broken up so many different lines. Another way you could do this, basically what it's doing is moving the difficult decision back onto the select board. You would combine some of these smaller departments and there would be a global line item for, I don't know, social services or some other category.
It's the cost centers. When you look at the
Yes.
warrant, you see that it's the, it's these departments and these numbers and everything in that. So
That would be a way that would be, make it,
That's the only way you could do it. You could put a bunch of these small ones together.
and then you would
Good
say,
luck with
okay,
putting that
these
senior
3
center in there.
departments
Okay.
have less money than they would collectively have less money than they would otherwise have if each budget was approved
Yeah.
individually and
Or we furlough, we say, you take,
And the
everybody
department heads-
take December off.
But that's really what we're talking about. I mean, everybody takes December off. You take the weeks between Christmas and New Year's off. This is standard in industry, it's, get to click on employment, but it's the way the world works.
Okay, to me, that's the only way to do this. If we're really going to apply the same parameters across the board and not separate
to get
big
to that
departments.
stage yet, if we just get the data back on what this, I'm getting confused about which is A and which is B.
A is.
A is the one you want.
Service-ish.
A is the good, the big one. B is the bad.
B is where they've got.
Okay.
It's not like A sounds that great, but it's, okay, we're just gonna first see what A looks like and see how big the gap is, and then there's a lot of different things that are on the table.
We're saying B, come back with no increase for fiscal year 27. That's what B is right now. And if we don't initially try to put these small departments together, again, what's Melissa Danza gonna come back with? Cut my salary. That's all she can do.
Yep.
I have a couple ideas on this as well. There's temporary things we could do like CPC, right? We could pause CPC for a period of time and that's I don't know the exact percent, but there's something there that we could maybe use that to go back into the budget for these salaries if we don't want to have these other pieces change.
CPC?
Is
CPA funds?
Yeah,
You
CPA.
can't use CPA funds for general fund.
But it's right now, we have that implemented in our tax base, right? So we could pause our contribution into that and that percent that we did could go back into.
Yeah, you can.
If you want.
You wanna go town
levy
meeting?
Capacity, you could drop out of the CPA.
Yeah, but you have to do, I mean, we can't do it. Town meeting's gotta do it.
Well, in a ballot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a ballot too. So that's not gonna happen during the next few months.
But you would still need an override. It's not that if you stop paying CPA, we all of a sudden get more taxes. The people pay less, but you'd still need an override. It's just your override would be offset by the fact that you don't have to pay CPA.
If we're trying to get creative here to solve some of the problems, I mean, it's an idea to put on the table.
But Tim, you can't solve that problem before we go to town meetings. What we're trying to tell you. You have to,
We have a special town meeting coming up. If we're going down this path, it's something we could float.
And then we'd have to, have a special election to do it at the ballot?
you gotta have,
I mean, it's something to consider. I don't know the full details of it off myself. I haven't looked it up, but if somebody knows the full details, I'm happy to listen to why it could or could not be a good idea. I'm just saying, as a creative solution here, what is the percent that CPA is something that we currently pay into?
0.1%.
No, 1%.
No, it's not. Okay, you're right, it's 1% of your total taxes, but the actual effective tax rate is 0.1. Okay, is there 5-member select board? Is there anyone that wants to consider Getting rid of the
You know, I
CPA.
think that's such a,
Me too.
we've had whole.
It's so little money.
This is just going off in a different direction. We made it.
And remember, we lose a state match, we actually make money. Andrew and I are about to go to CPC soon and actually talk about, Al's gonna involve it, talking about changing from 1% to 3%. So I would not support taking this time, but I'm one person. Sam?
Yeah, not now.
Okay. All right. Okay, so back to Plan B. So does everybody agree? We're gonna ask everybody to put together a budget that does not increase 1 penny from fiscal year 27.
Same bottom line.
Yep, same bottom line, right? And then we'll deal with the problems that causes as they come up, okay?
Mark, can we check with Labor Council in terms of what we legally can do in terms of furloughing or adjusting people's salaries downward because we don't have the money? I don't know legally what we can or can't do in
It's a good
that.
question, especially for the.
Given they're on the salary administration plan, I don't see, but anyway, let's at least go through this exercise and then we'll see where the pitfalls are. And I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a few pitfalls here, but we can start, I mean, not making exceptions up front, right?
Are we good with that?
First step.
You're, okay, to at least go through the exercise. All right. Okay, all right. Brian?
Yeah, I think we'll try to, maybe Mr. Purple and myself can try to standardize the responses as to what that means. Because each.
You're just going to
department's
say to the small departments, we understand that you're going to have to show a smaller salary. We understand that that's difficult to figure out how to do, but you're going to have to just say, this is what it would look like. Salary would have to be reduced.
I think even then, I think you're gonna have a challenge with the benefits line.
And benefits line?
Yeah, which,
We've actually got, I don't know if you guys are going to stay after this, but we're making some progress.
At least for FY 28.
Yeah. They don't carry over.
Correct. Yeah, I'm saying.
It's annuity. It's a carry over. Okay, so that was, everybody agree? So that's all I think we need to do tonight. I mean, then we'll deal with how to present, if there's an override, how to present, what the philosophy is. If you look at Brian's numbers for 5 years, it's gonna be,
Yeah.
all right, hold this up.
Well, no, but that's the second.
I understand.
Yep.
I was getting there.
Sorry.
Okay.
It looks like if you want to avoid, if we end up with Plan A budgets, all the way through, it looks like we need about a $10 million increase in the levy capacity for the next 5 years to avoid serial overrides. But we'll get to that discussion later. But that's just a number to kind of keep in mind. Brian's got it at almost 9 minutes, so I rounded up $1 million. Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
Adjourn. Advisory.
Should we
We're
do
gonna
that?
do one more thing, the calendar.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Okay.
at least we're gonna.
Vanessa, you want to put that on the screen if you can?
Okay, so we've already done the second thing on here, so we just did. Now we're looking at the first thing, the budget schedule. Okay, so CIPC, do you think they can meet August 28th?
I think we may have.
Hey, we
to
started,
push-
right?
I think we may have to push that off at least.
I think they're still on vacation. So I think that's a little bit unrealistic, given this is August 11th and they haven't started, right? So I think we're gonna have to push that one back.
Brian, is there any, I mean, we could send the budget distribution sooner rather than October 2nd, right? I think as soon as we have it, I think you send it.
yeah, I'd like to see it back in our hands no later than October 2nd. For the budget's A and B.
Yeah, we,
It's gonna be ugly, so.
as long as we have the FY 26 numbers, readily available now, then it's basically.
They're ready now, right? This is, well, maybe not quite.
Close, they're close. There's still some minor adjustments there.
Okay, so does October 2nd sound reasonable to have the budgets distributed and returned?
Yeah.
I'm not asking you, I'm asking.
I think distributed, we can.
Well, in the plan, it's distributed. What I'm saying is like, could we move that up to beginning of September or first week of September?
Maybe early September.
Right.
Yeah, basically, whenever we get FY 26, give you a week or two to get them out and then collect them back in a couple weeks after that.
Yeah.
Is October 2nd enough time, Brian? You need another week?
Budgets, so like budgets distributed could be due beginning of September or first or second week of September, and then collect them back either October 2nd or mid-October. Because right now, when are they supposed to come back? I guess November 20th. So yeah, I think that's the Al's point, like November 20th.
Okay, so let Brian decide what works for you,
Yeah,
Brian, to
I'd
get
push
them
it back to
out,
October 9th or something.
to be back,
October 9th.
to be returned.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's a holiday weekend too. You may want to do it the Monday.
Oh, okay, Monday.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe Monday.
Yeah.
so the Monday is the holiday, right?
Monday is, okay.
Right?
That Tuesday.
It's Heritage Day.
Yeah.
So Tuesday,
Give them a long weekend.
okay, so 9, 10, 11, 13th?
Yeah.
Okay, but back to capital, they've definitely got to get more time. So when do we want capital to finish meeting with everybody and come up with preliminary?
Kathy,
Mhm.
have you given official guidance to capital this year?
No, this is the first discussion, Tim.
Are you going through a similar exercise with them in terms of how they should scrutinize their requests?
They basically meet with all departments, put it all together, then prioritize it and just show it to us. They let us then do the cutting as far as that goes. So they know where to organize it. So we're really not asking them to come up with a final list. They're just going to show it to us, right? And show us what they believe needs to be done, why, what year goes in, and then we take it from there as far as seeing how we can fit it in.
They don't take into consideration what we can and can't afford.
Yeah. They think that's
Do
our
or do
job.
not?
They do not.
Do not.
So when they look at lease versus buy, they're not.
They don't really look at lease versus buy. They just look at whether or not what the capital asset should be. We used to. We don't really do that. They don't really do that much anymore.
Okay, so what do, you want to talk to Jason, Brian, and not just dictate to him as far as what he thinks will work?
Yes, I think we need to collaborate with them.
All right.
Yes.
But I think the message to the department heads that are submitting is try not to submit anything.
Do what?
I think the message to the department heads that are going to submit, that when we send out the, let's be very conservative in our capital asks and only request the absolute necessities.
All right, so he will need to then back into what he tells people as far as their dates to get it to him. So I've got time to put it all together. So I'd say we gotta let Jason dictate that one. Brian, you okay? All right, initial meetings, select board advisory.
I think you gotta add school committee to that.
Okay, now the one big, okay, we said October 9th, we're not gonna have the school budgets will not come back October 9th. Brian,
No.
no way.
No, I mean, yeah.
We can tell them what we
Say they
want
could
to,
have a
but they're not
draft,
going to.
No, they're not gonna.
So,
Well,
can-
we'll have what the option B number is,
Yep,
because it's already FY 27.
That's true.
can you ask them what works for them as far as when they realistically would have option A?
Sure.
The option A number should actually be.
Option A should be, what is your union increase
That's
plus?
true, if you tell them that, that's what we want for option A, you're right, so,
Yeah.
fiscal year 26, right, actual, which is their budget, because they spend it all, and then put your COLAs on there. And your increases on there, so you're right, they should be able to do this faster than usual, because they don't really need to massage every single line item.
Unless-
They will want to do that anyway. They'll keep doing what they do, but for us, that's what we need, right? Okay, so why don't we ask them for October 9th and see what Becky says?
Yeah, I mean, whether or not they go to town meeting with a third budget and try to amend it on the floor is a different question,
There's a real possibility of that.
right? But I think if advisory is the one that puts the money, that the two warrants on articles on the floor, and option A is decided already in this room, and option B is decided in this room, then those are the numbers that are presented. And if they don't agree with it, then they can amend them.
Both of these, A and B, are initial flags in the ground.
Yeah.
You know,
When town meeting doesn't want to do it, they don't want to do it, but we try to do what we heard. And this is what you got to do to be able to do that. So then if they say no, they say no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
With respect to the larger budgets, like the school budget, it seems to me also that we should be willing to allow some level of aggregation. In other words, rather than saying every line item has to be exactly as it was in.
We're not. So that's one exception. We're just telling them to,
Even in general, if a department wants to say, okay, these five line items were $100,000 in FY '26. I'm going to make them $100,000 in FY '27, but I might distribute the money differently.
well, we are saying that, Larry, to schools, because they've got the right to do that. So we actually are saying that. So we are saying that. So they just give us the one big number from fiscal year 26, fiscal year 27, 26, add the salaries on top of it, and they're done. So it really is not that big of a process if we give them time. Okay.
Yeah, whether or not they want an option C is a different.
Okay, so I agree with Al. We should add the school committee, maybe committees.
Are you gonna stand up the working group they used to have?
So Andrew's asking, there used to be a working group that consisted of people who were very involved in the budget process. So advisory was there, select board was there, schools were there, capital was there, Brian was there. This is all going pretty fast here. I don't know how to do it. I don't know what good it would do. Just another meeting.
Yeah, I think we had another meeting.
Yeah. Well, no, understand who it is. It's one select board
It's a
person.
representative.
This is not a real.
Well, I mean, I understand that, but like, if you want to follow what's happening or anything, it's another meeting that to pay attention to officially on top of everything else. I mean,
No, you don't need to pay attention to it. It's not recorded. It literally is. It's just a working group. That's not a committee. So there's no minutes, there's no anything. It's just people sharing thoughts about where they are with whatever they're working on. Okay, we can talk about that later. I'm not sure I want to do it. That's just because of the time. Okay, so we've agreed that on November 4th, we're going to try to get select board, advisory, school committees,
I would think
together.
we move that up if we're gonna get the final numbers back. Right, because we're gonna get the November 20 line item in October.
Yeah, but you gotta give Brian then time to put them together and stuff. So if you moved it up, I don't think you can move it much. Give him a couple weeks to put it all together and see what it looks like. And
I'm just saying, if we keep November 4, we would have the budgets before we had our, like, almost the initial meeting needs to be in September. Right, it's somewhere between the budgets being distributed and the budgets coming back.
why?
I don't know, that's how it's set up in here,
What's that?
right?
It depends what you're looking at for.
Depends on what we're
Get out
trying
of
to
the
get,
meeting
yeah, get out of the.
Yeah,
meeting.
I don't understand. What are we trying to accomplish with it?
the initial meeting and is the purpose to
See where we're at.
actually analyze some of the data or is it to start talking about? it?
Are we trying to influence what we would get back from a budget, or are we reviewing what we got for the budget?
I thought we just got through seeing what we're going to get back from the budgets. We told
Then we don't
everybody.
need, then we don't need an initial meeting. Let's just meet after we get the budgets back.
I agree. And
So the
we've got
initial-
it back at that point. So they come back October 13th and then we meet on November 4th.
The initial meeting is the budget review meeting.
Yeah, where everybody's got it back. We now got A and B and we see what it looks like and go from there. And we include the school, absolutely include the schools in this.
So you might need to get rid of the word initial.
Right.
Budget review meeting with that.
Budget review.
Yeah.
Okay.
Initial budget review meeting, if you want to leave it at that.
Advisory, you okay with that? As far as November 4th? Okay.
Good.
Okay. Budgets and money warrant articles submitted to the select board's office. Do we really mean that?
So that's my confusion.
Yeah. So what-
That's actually the October 13th. That's what we messed with.
Okay, so we don't need this one, the next one, right?
No, because we have
You got it
13th
blue?
of October. So
Yeah, we just moved that up.
yeah, we moved it up. So
Okay. So let's talk to Jason about the next one.
Yes, I think maybe we should do that. Yeah, I don't wanna.
Okay, so select board approves on December 22nd. Then advisory reviews and does what? Approves from that point on?
To the handoff, and
That's the.
I think we could do that earlier, move it up by a month probably, since we're moving the other one up by a month.
I would
That would
assume
be
you
good.
could probably do that mid-November.
And we might even be able to do it jointly as we get to that, right? Yeah.
I'm just a little worried about capital, giving them time to do their thing. Okay, so, we're saying move up the select board approval to November. Is that what you're saying?
So. Maybe that November. Yeah, November, something in
Second or
November.
third week of November.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so what's the third week? Pick a.
Do we have a meeting in there, Mark?
We've got two meetings.
Meet for,
I got it here. Yeah. hang on. November, December 1st or November 17th?
So let's just do December 1st.
Basically gives us a little bit more than a month to whittle it down.
Okay, so we do our thing and then tentatively we say advisory. This is where we are. Okay,
Here you
take it
go.
from here.
Yeah.
Right?
And hopefully we're in lockstep up to there, so it's not that much of a review, but it could be a lot, so who knows?
Hopefully somebody's still talking to us.
I mean, I don't see why we would do the Saturday, January 9th meeting at that point,
no,
right? We're done. We've already done this.
I mean, unless we earmark that in case there was a reason to have further in-person conversations, but more than likely not.
Well, we can always add it, Tim, so I'm just taking that one off.
I'm just wondering if it should be on there now and we remove it later, if that was the better approach.
Well, I think it's different. I think the meeting wouldn't be basically meet with all the department heads. It would be probably an advisory select board after your reconciliation and, you know, try to make sure we both support something in common.
Okay, so let's just call it select board advisory budget reconciliation for that date, right? If we don't have to do it, we don't do it, okay?
If needed.
The rest of it,
It's probably.
okay, then we've reconciled the advisory votes, right? As far as what they're recommending to town meeting on February 3rd. The rest of it should be fine as far as dates go.
I think so.
Yeah.
Everybody agree? So can somebody put this together and send it back?
Yes.
Yes.
It's gotta be tight, but
All right, so we've got a tentative calendar.
thank you.
All right.
The calendar is spelled wrong in that.
Then,
I think the word calendar is
It is.
spelled wrong. in there.
Needs a K. Instead of a C.
where's it spelled wrong?
No A.
It's an AR at the end.
It's bothering me and then I finally.
Calendar
realized.
like calendar field, it is.
Was focusing so much on the items in it.
Okay, I'm trying to get Brian out of here. It's his birthday. Okay, so are we, I think we've done the two things we were going to try to get done tonight, right? We've got a calendar, we've got the two budgets we're gonna ask people to put together and we'll go from there. Okay, and I think we all cooperated very well. Okay, so Marcy, you agree?
I agree.
Okay,
Thank you.
Adjourn away.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn advisory?
Second.
Roll call vote, Al,
Aye.
Larry.
Aye.
Tim, Eric,
Aye. I whispered the
Marcia.
first time, I don't know if you heard it, but
Marcy is aye. Thank you.
Oh, it's funny. Thank you, guys, seriously.
At
Nice to see you in person
8:48.
too.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not sure we gave you much of a birthday present.
All right, we're gonna take a 5 to 10 minute recess, so we can see what we're gonna do. Okay?
Yeah.
We're all set? All right, so we're back in session at 8:55. Okay, reports. So I'm going to do a quick Costco report, because there was a recent blog post that, wasn't, totally informative. She looked at a big piece of it. So long story short, everything's going fine as far as what has to be done locally. We're in good shape as far as the liquor license. ZBA approved the 2 variances. Lisa's getting planning board teed up to do the site plan review and the work for the special permit. The holdup, the bottleneck is the state. So because the traffic light at Crystal Pond Road is going to have to be changed as far as the timing goes because of the additional traffic, the state's involved. So Atlantic is working through all of the things they've got to work through with MEPA, et cetera. Joe Zink now believes they'll be done with the state in February, which of course is a great message to start building, right? In Massachusetts. But anyway, he thinks they'll be done, and questions whether Costco is willing to go ahead and start some work prior to that, and they might, knowing that they're going to get the approval. It's just a matter of time. But that's the big holdup is the state work. And so if they don't start to February, it's about 180 days to build it. They can build them so fast. They move the inventory in like they start 90 days. So we still could have it done by the end of 27, but they're pushing it right now. So maybe early 28 before they actually open. And the hope is they get it open in the year of the tricentennial, right? We've got this great project that comes to fruition. But anyway, it's a state that is the holdup here. It's not anything local. All right, who's next? Mark? No, sorry. Who's?
Me.
Oh, sorry, Andrew, go.
So update on the elementary school building committee. We met on August 6th with the consultants. We reviewed, they came with 3 preliminary options. Basically, kind of what is the existing floor plan that shows everything there. Option 1 was creating, a north and a south neighborhood on the right side of the building, on the right side of the courtyard, and having a partial district offices there, and eliminating the modular classrooms. That kind of wasn't really well received because basically the district said you can't have partial, district office. So if we were it's gonna be kind of an all or nothing thing.
They were gonna split it between 2 places?
This option cut down the amount of space that they were given in half, basically. So
Okay.
Greg was basically like, we would just find a new home. The other option was again that the district fully being removed and the wall between the 2 gymnasiums opened up so you could actually fit like a middle school size gymnasium in there and probably a row of seats like chairs, but that so it'd be kind of a tight gymnasium in terms of fans capacities. But that would allow a dedicated special education class per grade, and the addition of a world language classroom. And on top of bringing the speech language and ELL from the modulars into the actual school. And then the next third option was similar to getting rid of the regional office, but expanding the gymnasium into the courtyard. So it would fill up that whole space and you could put a full size bleachers in there that would hold the whole school. It'll be about 450 people. They also have in this option a new entry and admin on the front. So it would kind of, have the door would open and close. So you would have kind of an area space there and you would have the main office and the principal's office right there. Which that entry could be added to any of the options. They just happen to do it in this one. So we kind of discussed that. We asked them to go back and come up with another option of the gymnasium of putting it off to the side of the building as opposed to in the center in terms of, whether or not constructing something in the center of the building would be more expensive than starting a fresh kind of blank slate. So they're going to look at that. We are meeting again on the 19th. Right now, the idea from a plan perspective is to do the preliminary concept and site analysis from now through October 7th. And then we go to the options development and the actual schematic designing through the beginning of January. And then they'll assemble all the documents that we need for town meeting by January 21st and submit it to the town. Then they're still working off of the March 20th town meeting as the date, but there's always, if we get the materials in the middle of January of having a pre-town meeting to discuss the school, depending on which options we have or whether or not we want to get in line with MSBA again. But we have some wiggle room there in terms of when we'd actually get planning to get the documents in. And the idea is that they would come to fall town meeting and do an update to the public. And maybe we'd have a clicker question or something if we wanted to get some feedback on the designs or something. But yeah, they said that they've done that in other communities. I thought it's probably a good idea.
Yeah. Thank you. Mark?
Just a couple of quick things, and some good news. I did have put some information in your packet, because I think it's always good to keep, the board updated on, our community choice program for our, electricity aggregation program. It's kind of amazing when you take a look at this. We've had this program in place since February of 2018. Over that period of time, we have saved residents, over $11 million in utility costs based on what they would have paid otherwise if they were with grid or some other entity. We've got a little over 3,300 accounts across all classes: residential, industrial, and commercial. And so there's a good amount of people that are using this, taking advantage of it. And I just wanted to point out, we have our rate as of December is going to be just slightly over 13 cents a kilowatt hour. Other aggregation programs in the area are a little bit higher, 13.8, 15.8. And National Grid just released their pricing, which is August 1st to January 31st, and it's over 17. So
13 to 17.
13 to 17. So residents are going to continue to see, savings and everything. And I just, when we talk about, money and things like that, I just thought it'd be good, to put that information in there and make sure that everybody understands that, this program is still helping to try to keep those costs down.
11 million is a lot of money.
$11 million in 8 little over 8 years is I think pretty impressive. Secondly, good news. We have received another Green Communities Competitive Grant in the amount of $71,026 to help fund some energy conservation measures. It's replacing all of the lighting in the buildings with LED lighting that are not already done. So it's the townhouse, the library, Corderville Hall, DPW transfer station, DPW Station 2 in South Union. So other than, I think, the cemetery building, all of our lighting in all of our schools and all our municipal buildings will all have been changed over. So again, we'll begin to see, savings in some electricity. So, maybe John doesn't come in and ask for, the things are really going up, significantly. So again, I do want to give kudos to John. The way that these Green Communities grants works is you get the grant awarded to you. You can't apply for another round until you do the work, right? So we get the notifications right around this time of year, and then you have to apply for the next grant cycle, probably in November or December. So John, God bless him, every year has tried to get all the work done in a 2-month period so that we can make sure we don't miss a grant cycle.
Wow.
Okay, so it's so now, because we've been so I guess competitive, that we are now only in the competitive cycle. We don't get other funding. It's just competitive, and we make sure that we get something in every single year. So we're seeing those improvements. So kudos to John for continuing to work hard on those things. And I do think those things are paying off in terms of helping somewhat, to manage our utility costs. 2 other items. One, the ZBA is going to be holding a public forum tomorrow night in this room at 7 o'clock on a new proposed 2-family dwelling bylaw. So people who are interested, you can come and attend, or I believe it's also available virtually. So you can do so from the comfort of your own living room. And before that, the final concert for the season is being held down at Neary between 6 and 8. And Select board members Stivers and Pfaff will be there holding court. If people would like to come and talk with them about any issues, they will be set up down there. Don't know if Sam is bringing his sign that he always has so that you can easily identify him.
Ask the selectmen.
So,
Board, please.
did you change it? I was gonna say, did you update it?
Couple years ago. So-
Yeah, so that'll be happening. So like I said, you can check off both of those items tomorrow evening.
So the other three of us will come and ask a bunch of questions. Okay, so be ready.
Praise is welcome as well.
Okay,
So-
we'll come to praise you. All right, moving on, consent agenda. A through I. What does anyone want to hold?
The 7th.
Okay, just the seventh?
Just the 7th.
Okay.
I think I had some for the 10th. Yeah.
All right, seventh and tenth. Anything else you want to hold? Yeah, I want to hold G and H very quickly. Okay, A, G, and H. So I'll make a motion to approve consent items B, C, D, E, F, and I.
Second.
All in favor? All right, minutes. So Sam, you want to go? Andrew, you had the seventh?
I have some on the 7th, but Sam start.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so it's, in line 111, there's an extra that.
Okay, you're on the tenth or the seventh, Sam?
7th.
Seventh, okay.
Well, these are not substantial, but, you know.
Okay, what line?
Line 111, so that should be removed. Line 116 should be meter instead of meter.
Okay.
Line 176, it's Richards Road.
176 is Richards Road.
Richards instead of Richard. It's an S. Line 187, Mr. Farrington's name is misspelled, it's an FAR.
What line?
187,
It's FA.
FA.
So Bridget is FARRINGTON. Is that right? Okay.
Line 247, it's Mr. Pfaff instead of Ms. Pfaff for last week.
I had that one.
Plus he has news for us.
Okay, Mr. Pfaff, not the better half. Okay,
Line 254, upcoming meetings should be August 11th and September 2nd. July 7th is last.
all right, so upcoming meetings are August 11th, September 2nd. I'm just repeating this to make sure she hears you.
Yeah,
Okay.
Line 282, it's Richards Road again. Same thing.
So it's plural Richards Road.
And that's it for me.
Incremental ones I had, Bridget, line 53, rules and regulations. So add an S to regulation.
Which one are you on?
Line 53
Still the seventh.
on the 7th. Yep.
Okay, sorry, 53.
Yep. So just change regulation to regulations.
Okay.
And then got that one. Line 250, it should be detrimental effect on the town physician instead of the town physician. And that's all I got.
Okay. Who held the 10th? Okay, go ahead.
Line 12, the common victualler license, I think it's an extra L in there. VICTUALLER.
You think it's two L's?
I think it's 2 L's.
Vanessa agrees with you.
Okay.
All right.
I think that's basically all I have. Yep, that's all I have.
All right, takes care of that. So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from July 7th and July 10th as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, real quickly, the only reason I held Gene H is just to make it clear that Kevin Miller has talked to these two ladies extensively. He is really happy that they've agreed to join, and they joined in part because they were part of the historic sign at their homes. They've got the historic house and they wanted to have signs there. So that's how they got to know the Historic Commission. So he's now full and he's really excited about the capabilities of these two. So we put it on consent because he really did get to know him well. And I thought there was no reason to bring them in, given what he said. Okay. All right. So I'll make a motion to approve both Casey Harvey and Melissa Fitzgerald to the Historical Commission Casey's term expires June 30th and Melissa's expires June 30th of 27. So one's 29, one's 27.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. All right, so now we're going to pick up something we started at the June 16th meeting, I believe. So if everybody recalls, we did not appoint Freddie Gillespie to either open space or stewardship that night. As part of the discussion, we started, it was an 0-5 vote as far as open space. Stewardship was different. Initially, it looked like there was going to be at least 2 votes to do that, and possibly 3 again, but we never really finished the vote because Sam pointed out to us that we couldn't put Freddie on stewardship because the space that she occupies was because of her role with open space. It's an open space position. So therefore, we talked about possibly changing the charge of stewardship to allow Freddie to be on stewardship. So that's where we are tonight, is to first of all decide whether we want to change the charge, and if we do we want to appoint Ms. Gillespie to stewardship? We have heard a lot about this. I don't think there's any point of taking any more public comment on this. We know what people's feelings are as far as this. There are very strong feelings for this. Anybody disagree with that as far as wanting to hear more? Okay. All right, so where is the chart? There it is. Okay, so I'm just going to read the current chart for stewardship. It's short. The charge of the ad hoc stewardship, Southport Stewardship Committee, is to support the Conservation Commission by providing conservation-based stewardship of the Breakneck Hill Conservation Land, balancing multiple conservation and passive recreational uses. The composition is 5 Southport residents comprised of 1 rep from conservation, 1 rep from open space, and the 3 at-large members appointed for 1-year terms. Now, it's my understanding that they've got 4 people on this committee now, so there's no space for Freddie unless we were to change the charge and remove the open space position and make it an at-large position. Everybody agree with that? Where is she? And I can't see. Am I right, Joyce? You're full, right? You got 4 people on it, correct?
We have 4 people in an empty open space.
Right. Okay, so you got 4. Okay, so what I said is correct. Okay, so the question to the select board is, do you want to vote to change the charge of the stewardship committee to remove the open space position and making it at-large position?
Yes.
Okay, you're a yes. Okay. Tim?
Yeah.
Sam?
Probably not, but it's a larger issue for me. My concern is what I've expressed previously. I'd like to see what this project that we're talking about launching with a consultant to look at the overall structure of the committees is. And I think there's some overlap here that I'd be interested in that kind of input on. If you look at the charge for the Conservation Commission, it is extremely broad. And they're authorized by state law to receive or purchase real estate, acquire rights necessary to conserve, properly utilize open space, and it shall manage and control the same. So to me, the Concom charge covers not only stewardship, but open space, as a matter of fact. And I think it would be useful to clarify who's responsible for what there, who should be responsible. And then I listened to the stewardship committee meeting, the recent one, and they were talking about managing the town forest, which is not in their charge. So not that it shouldn't be or couldn't be, but I think there's a lack of clarity on that. So if we talk about changing the charge, we ought to think about being more specific with that, because the charge currently refers only to Breakneck Hill, not town forest. And as I recall from previous conversations about this, I think there's some opportunities to do more for other open space in town. So to me, we ought to be managing all of it more proactively. And I would like to see more explicit treatment of that issue and figure out who's going to do it going forward. So before we change membership and charge or whatever, I think it's worthwhile looking at the consulting process that we're talking about launching this evening and getting feedback from that process. So at this point, I guess I would not be in favor of changing the charge until we get that input. So
AP?
I think change the charge, and then, as Sam said, we can review that as part of what the contractor is. I might even say make them all at large. I mean, there's no but why not just give the flexibility so you don't necessarily have to have a conservation commission member, even though they do, which is great, but why not change it to just 5 at large? But fine with just the 4 at large and 1 conservation, but or just 5 at large.
So I agree with Sam and I agree with you, except I don't want to change the Concom charge because that's not an issue tonight. And there is such a connection with Concom, and I think we'll leave that alone for a moment. But addressing this down the road as far as what our consultant comes up with is not prohibited by doing this, right? So I'm fine with going ahead tonight and changing this tonight to basically allow Freddie, assuming she still wants to do it, to be on stewardship. Is that true? Yes? Is that yes?
That's a yes.
Okay, that's why we're doing this. So if you don't want to be on, then we're doing this for nothing. Okay, all right, so I'll make a motion to change the charge of the ad hoc South Florida Stewardship Committee to, instead of having a rep from open space, to have 4 at-large members appointed for 1-year terms.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, so that's a 4-1 vote to do that. Okay, now, since that's approved, the second part is I will make a motion to appoint Freddie Gillespie to fill the now vacant at-large position on the Stewardship Committee.
Expiring June 30th.
Expiring June 30th, 2027, yes.
Second.
Okay, all right, any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Okay, so 5-0 for that. Okay. All right. Okay. So Jim is not here. Okay, so now we've got to discuss, now that we know Mr. Haggerty has resigned as of September 30th, we need to talk about what has to happen to replace him, at least temporarily. So currently his position is elected. The next election is not till May, so we need to fill that position. This is select board job to fill it between now or October 1st and May 11th, right? So this, I think the state law was in everybody's packet. It's a little poorly written, but it's there. So it says, if in case of a vacancy, other duties than those required of a town clerk at a town meeting are to be performed, or if he is unable to perform such duties, the selectmen may in writing under their hands appoint a clerk for the performance thereof, who shall be sworn and shall, in the performance of such duties, have the same powers and be subject to the same requirements and penalties as the town clerk, and he shall immediately make a record of his election or appointment. A temporary clerk appointed under this section shall not be required to be a resident nor a registered voter of the city or town. So that's the process. So we do appoint. Vanessa is ready to go with starting the process tomorrow. So Vanessa, you want to come up and tell us what your tentative plans are? Brian, why are you staying?
It's so much fun.
He's having so much fun.
We're the party.
His birthday. Thank you very much. So we do have a job posting ready to go if the board so approves this action tonight. We'll get it posted first thing in the morning. We have it closing by to stay open for 10 days. And then we would go with our normal recruitment search process. For the first round is usually myself, another department head. Very often we bring in someone who is retired from a similar position in another community. We would do that again as well. And in this case, we thought we would ask the town moderator to also assist by participating in the first round interviews. And then the second round would be with Mark and probably 1 or 2 other department heads. And that's what we have planned, and we would be able to conclude that first and second round interview process, hopefully by Labor Day. So at your, probably your second meeting in September, we'd be bringing you a recommendation for an interim town clerk.
So that would then mean that by October 17th, we'd have a
Correct.
in place, so they would be able to handle.
Yes, the plan is to have someone in place just before Jim wraps up on September 30th or the very next day.
If we can be ready to go between your meeting cycle, we'll ask for a special meeting.
Right, so that's the proposed process. Anybody have an issue with it?
If we are delayed past October first, are we covered with having a deputy?
Yes.
We're covered with the staff that's already here. They have the right
Yes.
rules and regulations that they can do whatever they need to do in the office.
Exactly. I should also note, Jim and I have just concluded interviews for the part-time administrative assistant in the clerk's office. He has made a selection, and that young woman will be starting on August 24th. So he'll have about a month with that new employee as well.
Okay. Will is the title of this job like interim?
Yes.
Okay, interim town clerk.
The position is not listed in the SAP, so I've already conferred with Labor Council, and they are ready to prep an employment agreement between the select board and the interim town clerk to set their compensation and benefits.
So we would do a contract.
Yes.
Yes. Is there any desire in this to look for somebody that might want a longer term position, assuming that we would pass this position as something that we would appoint in the future since all the work would have been done? Or is it best just to fill it for the moment, get through what we need to get through, and then have the longer discussion about a long-term fill?
We certainly prefer the first offer of hiring, bringing someone in at this point that would be willing to stay on if the article passed successfully at town meeting and the ballot and so forth. So we're going to go into the interviews thinking that way, and hopefully it works out that way. If it doesn't, you know, you'll be the first to know.
Okay,
That's good.
AD? Okay,
Sounds good.
all right, so Vanessa, do you want us to officially vote to say go?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to authorize Vanessa Hale and her team to conduct the interviews that need to be conducted to find us an interim town clerk.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you very much.
You want to these items so Brian can get out of here?
Yeah, I said, why is he still here? What's he? Ew, sorry. Okay, you are here for a reason. All right, so we're gonna go to D to get, so Brian can leave, salvage, 2 hours of his birthday. Okay. All right, I am going to turn D, which is the consideration of acceptance of NGL chapter 32B, sections 21 through 23, over to Mr. Purple.
Thank you. There was some information in your packet. And so I'm just gonna add a few comments onto that. So last year, after switching health consultants for the first time in more than 20 years, the town undertook a review of our plan design for the health insurance options we provide to our eligible employees. We did this in conjunction with the town of Northborough and the regional school district, with whom we have an informal purchasing consortium for our employee health insurance. Select Board reviewed options which would have made changes to our HMO plans, as well as adding a new high deductible plan with a health savings account. While we could not reach agreement with the collective bargaining groups on making changes to HMO plans, many employees were receptive to the new high deductible plan. So much so that during the benefit renewal period for fiscal 2027, 43% of eligible town employees and 20% of eligible school and K through 8 employees shifted from the HMO plans to the high deductible plan with HSA. These changes resulted in $124,000 in premium savings for those employees and more than $350,000 in premium savings for the town. Employee health insurance currently comprises 11.2% of the overall town budget. 10 years ago, it was 9% of the town budget. It's one of the bigger cost centers that the town must fund each year. As we look at the very real possibility of needing an operational override in fiscal 2028, as we discussed tonight, to maintain our current level of services, we need to continue to modernize our health insurance offerings for employees, in addition to reviewing other cost centers. Implementation of the high deductible plan was a good initial step in modernizing our healthcare options, but it did not address our current plan offerings. The school superintendent, the town administrators for Southborough and Northborough are recommending to the governing boards and committees that each accept Mass General Law, Chapter 32B, Section 21 through 23, which will give the town the ability to more effectively negotiate, implement plan design changes. The acceptance of the statute will provide another tool for the town to collaboratively make plan design changes to our health insurance and lower premiums for employees and the town alike. As of this meeting, both Northborough and the regional school boards and committee have adopted this statute. Should the board vote in the affirmative this evening, the town administrators and superintendent will move forward with our health consultant to formulate a plan design proposal and identify the associated cost savings for our respective boards to consider. Any proposed plan design changes would not take effect until the new plan year beginning July 1, 2027.
Okay, so we are not taking any public comment on this tonight. We did have some people earlier that were here for this, and we told them we weren't going to, so rather than waste their time, they went ahead and left. So all we're trying to do tonight is vote to adopt these 3 sections, and then there will be a lot more that we'll be able to start working on if we have the statute enabled in this town. And as Mark said, Northborough voted unanimously for it last night, and the regional school committee voted unanimously for it this morning. So we go third. Any questions? Okay. All right. Okay, so I've got where's my next one? Here we go. Okay, so here's the motion that we've been given by legal counsel to make. So I move that select board, acting as the appropriate public authority under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 32B, hereby votes to accept and engage in the process to change health insurance benefits under the provisions of sections 21 through 23 of Chapter 32B. I further move that select board authorizes the town administrator and other appropriate officials to take all actions necessary to comply with the requirements of those sections, including conducting the required analysis of projected savings, providing notice to the Insurance Advisory Committee and Public Employee Committee as required by law, engaging in negotiations with the Public Employee Committee, if necessary, participating in the Municipal Health Insurance Review Panel process, and executing any other actions required to implement health insurance plan design changes or transfer to the Group Insurance Commission in accordance with Chapter 32B. This vote shall take effect immediately upon adoption, subject to compliance with all procedural requirements of Massachusetts General Laws 32B.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0. Thank you, everybody. That was a very important vote. Okay, thank you, Brian. Again, sorry that it was your birthday. Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to C, which is the warrant. So everybody has the warrant in the package to look at. Yes. All right, so still a pretty skimpy warrant, what we say. Okay, so let's just run through them one at a time and make sure everybody at least understands what we're trying to do here and see if anybody's got any comments on the vote on anything. We're just trying to make sure that everybody understands what is going to be on it. Do you have a copy?
I do.
Well, where did it go? Okay, there you go. Okay. No, it's here someplace. Okay, so we got 13 listed, I believe. Yep. And okay, so I'm going to jump around a little bit. So articles 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are all CPC articles. So they will be presenting these. So we'll vote yes or no, but these are either projects or they're trying to extend a couple of projects approved previously, correct?
Yes, and there's also one additional one. Article.
Sorry, 13.
Yes, I haven't listed a select board, but that would be.
That's probably us because that's Rick got
No,
that.
that's you.
Right? That's us. Okay. All right, but that's still
No,
related.
It would be Article 10, which would be returning money from. Returning borrowing, authorization of monies from CPC projects.
Yeah.
So I talked to Ms. Braccio about this today, and that's something they'll take up. The one issue with that is Mass Historical currently has the preservation restrictions that they need to review. We've been on deck with them for months. So I'm hoping that is going to be taken care of before we get to town meeting and we could actually do something about this. So, but CPC will be taking this up at their next meeting to see if that article actually would stay on.
Okay, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are all CPC
Yes.
articles that they will present, right? You agree? They're the proponent of this. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the ones that aren't CPC. Okay, so the first one is probably the most substantive one, on here. So this is the one where Jim Haggerty has sponsored this article. And I assume he's still the sponsor, even though he won't be town clerk at that point. I assume he doesn't convert to a citizen's petition, but we can check with Jay on that one. But anyway, Jim Haggerty is going to speak to this one. This is the one that would convert town clerk from being elected to appointed. And the wording is pretty complicated because we're trying to do two things here, do it two different ways. So first of all, town meeting has to approve it. So that applies to both ways, right? So we've got to have a positive vote, majority vote, October 17th. If that is approved, then one of two things can happen as far as the second vote that has to take place. So this is authorizing a special act, so we can go to the legislature and see how fast they would get it done. But then as a backup, if they don't get it done by the next election in May, then we would take it to the ballot and have the town vote on ratifying what special town meeting did. So two different ways to try to get it done. The town meeting, or excuse me, the election vote is a backup in case the special act doesn't get approved and Jay Tallerman thinks it's likely it won't get approved by next May 11th, whatever the day that the town election is. So anyway, this may not all get worked out until next May. And if it goes to that, then it's going to be a little complicated that we're going to have to make sure we explain to people. So on this same ballot, you're going to have town clerk being elected, and then you're also going to have this to be approved, yay or nay. So it really will confuse people as far as what they're voting on, to have the election and then this to say, we want to be appointed. So there you go, as far as how this is all going to play out. So maybe if we're lucky, the special act will get approved before then. We don't have to worry about the ballot, but if not, we'll have to do it through the ballot, right? Okay. All right, so the person who takes a job as interim will be taking a risk if they are, hoping that they end up with a permanent job because it's got to get approved, right? They won't know if it's going to be approved when they take that job. So they will know that. So
They may know on October 17th.
Yep.
They might need to move to Southborough before that.
Yeah. Okay, so any questions on the first one? Okay, the next one, I didn't want to say much about. This is ZBA.
One quick clarification with what you just said. On the legislative process, it doesn't matter if we have this on October 17th, correct? Like, I know we're talking about the special town meeting.
You have to get the town meeting to approve it first before you can do the special act. So town meeting
Okay.
approves going to the legislature. So that has to happen either way.
Okay.
Okay, so you got to have a positive vote on the 17th, and then we've got two paths to actually get it done.
Mass General Law requires that the vote between town meeting and the election needs to be at least 60 days.
Yeah.
And we don't have 60 days between our current date of March 20th and May 11th. We'd have to back it up to what would be a Friday, but technically would probably be March 6th.
So that's why there's so much time in between.
Yeah.
Okay, number two is the article, I believe Doris Cahill was here earlier, so I guess she got tired. But anyway, I believe this is. her
That's a
thing.
zoning article,
I think
yes.
this is her thing. Okay, so, we'll have to eventually take a position on it,
Yeah.
but this is their article. They are proposing it.
Yeah. And the board just sent that to planning board so planning can start their public hearing process.
Yeah, so more to come on this one. There's always a little bit of controversy on this one. Okay, so that's number two. All right, so we just talked about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 is whether we're going to go for. I don't think we are, right? I mean, we're not going to do this special time for water enterprise.
I think we need to figure out whether or not, if we did it at the special town meeting in the fall, whether or not we could capture any of the benefit in FY28 budget.
All right, so TBD.
Yeah, so Brian's gonna look into whether the timing of whether or not, because ideally you approve it then, and then when you budget in FY28, you can shift the funds out of the general fund into the enterprise fund and alleviate some of the levy override.
And if you can't, there's no hurry.
I don't think there's as much of a hurry now, but I mean.
All right, so you'll report back as far as, okay. All right, 9 is, it's my understanding that this has been approved by Melissa Danza, and we're ready to do this. So this is the excess borrowing that we did to clean up the Breakneck Hill. No?
I'm still waiting for the final approval from her. But it appears likely that we are not gonna have to borrow any more than we currently have. So anything that is remaining, we can return that borrowing authorization. It's not been borrowed, it's just the authorization.
And that was the one that was in, what, 2 town meetings ago that we pulled on the floor?
Yes, correct.
It's not gonna save any money because we didn't borrow it, but you might as well shut it off so that we don't spend it down the road, right? Okay, so 10 is what Mark just said, so you are checking with, you're just gonna keep track of whether they do it or not.
Correct.
So this may or may not go forward.
Correct.
All right, this is, I really is gonna be warned. Okay, the next one we already talked about with Bill, which is to fund the cost of adding water to the 2 houses on Parkerville. So he's gonna add the number to that when he gets that from Tim Tees. All right, number 12. Okay, so there has been some discussion among a few people. There is interest. Bill Condon is absolutely interested in doing this too, just so you know, sincerely. He's working on putting a memo together that he's going to send to Concom. They're the ones that actually sponsored the original scenic bylaws. Do you know that? It wasn't planning board, it was Concom. So he's gonna work with Concom to basically explain to them why he would like to see this done. And then we'll see if this really is going to be one that we want to go forward with. But there's definitely several people, I think, on this board too, that like to see the number of roads reduced. Not every road's a scenic road. We know what we live on, what we don't. So that the process that scenic roads required would be reduced. So Bill Cundiff's Chris Boyd would have as many meetings to attend with other people, et cetera. I believe there's some desire to label the roads that are scenic road with nice signs like other towns do, so they would be identified appropriately. Maybe in time for the tricentennial as we try to spruce up the town. Right, so I think that's all we say about this one tonight. We wait to see what Bill gets as a reaction from Concom. Right, all right, then of course we would have to come up with a list of those roads. Right, all right, so that's it.
13.
That's 13. We talked about 13 a second ago, Sam. So that's just some money that Rec Commission got that's going to be used for the Fable Park upgrades. So all we're doing is accepting the grant money.
Why does the town meeting have to accept?
I don't know.
versus
That's a good
us?
question. Why on earth
It's
do we
it's a grant requirement.
really?
Yeah.
Would we do it at this? I feel like the order. Like, so do we have to approve the full amount at a CPC and then accept the grant? Or could you put it in the same article so that the dollar amount we're approving in CPC is the difference?
I don't think you can do it the same article, but I'm not sure if you can put the articles together and do it in a certain order.
Yeah,
So that if you don't do one, then the other one doesn't happen or something. So
Like accept the
we
grant
can-
and then accept the, yeah.
we can look at the
Massage the
ordering.
ordering.
Yep.
Well, let's assume the project passes, right?
But do we have to approve the project for the full amount? Because it's first, and then we approve the grant, or do
I
we
thought
approve-
that they had already netted out the grant from this amount.
I think that they have, but I don't want to say that I'm sure.
I don't know why I think that, but I do
Yeah.
think that. I could be wrong.
But then I guess if we don't pass this one, we have to go back and revote the other one, change the number, I guess. But anyway, just want to think about it.
So kind of like MSBA.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should clarify that as far
Okay.
as what they're asking for here is that assuming that this is, so it's net of this, right? So they're not asking for it twice. Okay. Okay, so that's it as far as the warrant goes.
So can I ask a question about the date of this?
Yeah.
Further clarifying this town clerk element. If we would postpone this special town meeting and do it on the date like Mark said, which was what, March 4th or whatever that backup date would be from the other meeting, would we have any potential to align with a potential NERI element that we would consolidate the 2 meetings into one? Still do the special town meeting, but just commit to that date in March? Since this agenda is pretty light and schools would be the other part of this, or NERI specifically would be the other part of this. And we'd still be over the 60 days out that we need to be. And have 1 meeting on the calendar versus potentially 2.
So it's a good question, Tim. there's two things on here that are time sensitive. And without those two, I don't think we'd be having this meeting. I mean, one of those is the town clerk because of this 60 days you gotta have between the town meeting vote and if it's on the ballot. So there's one. But you're right, the March 4th date would work on that, if that is the date. The second one is the irrigation project. So that was approved, what, 2 years ago?
Yes.
There wasn't enough money. They didn't do the budget right, so we're trying now to get the rest of the money. And because of when it needs to be done, they need to get started in the fall, or it's not gonna be ready for the spring, is my understanding. The golf, we're about to have a meeting with the current manager. He has said that he doesn't want another 5-year contract. He would like to have something shorter, because he's gonna retire soon. But he also thinks that we will not get bids, a 5-year bid from anybody unless we do the irrigation project. So the irrigation project is important as far as this next contract goes. So long answer to your short question. If we knew we were gonna have an irrig vote on a certain day and that still gave us time to get the irrigation done and gave us that 60-day window for town clerk, it probably would make sense to only have one special town meeting and not two. But if we don't have the hearing and then have a special with just this couple things on it right before an annual town meeting, it's probably not going to go over well either. So there's your answer. Probably worth talking about as far as the date goes. I mean, this really is a very skimpy warrant.
Andrew, back to that point, do you think a March NERI vote is completely out of the realm of possibilities right now, or is it something that could become?
I don't think it's out of the realm, but it could also be done at the annual, right? I think if we're leaning towards a non-MSBA town funded, large, that option B $15 million thing, then, I don't know, it needs to be necessarily a standalone meeting. We don't have to do all the MSBA stuff. But if this is a large renovation and hey, maybe we want to get back in line with MSBA or not there's a lot more moving pieces and then probably wouldn't be ready for that. So I think it's too preliminary, to Kathy's point, we don't know now and it's not worth the chance that we're not going to be ready.
Yeah. Put it this way, it's a quick meeting.
I know, but it's just one of those things that have a special that's quick and then have another special potentially. Or we just kind of eliminate the idea that we could have a second in March and that we would just for sure move NERI to another date. I just don't like the idea of having two specials, but
I don't think we know enough to say that we're going to have a NERI meeting, yes or no, or whether or not it would be in the annual. I also think it's a nice trial run for the interim town clerk to to get their feet wet on a relatively light meeting. But I mean, we could also find stuff between now and then, who knows?
Yes,
Some committee changes, some bylaw changes, that kind of thing.
I think
Citizens petitions haven't come in yet.
if we keep this, have we asked all the departments, if anybody else has anything waiting that they might bring forward? Do we know?
Yeah, we had sent something out to departments, boards and committee chairs, and it was a lot of crickets, except for a couple of minor things, one being the grant, for the Fayetteville Park project that we need to include in that. So.
Okay.
All right, so it sounds like we want to stick with October 17th if I'm reading between the lines.
I think we should go forward with the October meeting. The fact that it's a short agenda is okay.
That's right.
I've always thought, and we already debated this, so whether it should be on a weeknight or the Saturday, and for whatever reason, people want to do the Saturday, so it just is what it is. What would be the start time?
10.
Okay, we try to have it
Done by
2
lunch.
hours.
That's right, get it done by lunch. That would really thrill people.
Make the whole thing consent.
Well, there's a lot of, you could put a few things in consent.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so I think that's all we can do with that one tonight. Okay, government structure study. So Mark, you want to describe what you've done to get us to where we are today?
Sure, we've talked, I think we've talked a lot about this. over the past several years. And again, I think that this iteration of the board, previous iteration of the board had looked at, has kind of expressed in various levels of frustration with our system and with how we do what we do and wanting to look at ways to make ourselves more efficient. And so, Ms. Hale had put out something for consultants to give us responses back who'd be interested in doing this work. CSS was the only one who actually did give us a response. I take that back. Actually gave us a proposal. We did get 2 other no responses, or they were not interested in providing, a quote at this time. CSS has done several of these studies, I believe, and again, it has been a little bit, but Manchester by the Sea, they had done a review. They just did the same thing, similar thing in Rentham, and we can provide you, copies of those again for you to take a look at to understand, I think, what the work product will look like. The quote that we have for them is $24,650. It is about, correct me if I'm wrong, Vanessa, 4 months, roughly
18 weeks.
Okay, so 4 to 5 months in order for them to do the work. You do have information in your packet, regarding the listening sessions and the public engagement on this, as well as engaging with current officials, committees, and areas that, that we feel, are ones that we really should take a look at as to, how to consolidate and create efficiencies. So I really think that this is exactly what the board was looking to do. I think that, I know the board really hasn't dug in yet on the financial management study report that was done by DLS a little bit ago, but we're going to make sure that that document is made available to the consultant to actually incorporate into their work, so we can make sure that they take that all into account. Again, excited to get going and see, where this may go, and to give the board a little bit of a roadmap as to here's how we could make some of the changes. And I had a conversation with one of you, earlier in the past couple of weeks and everything, understanding what will the takeaways be? What will we actually get from this? And I really think that it's going to be determined by what actions the board decides to take from the recommendations that you're given, and how you want to go about achieving those goals or implementing. Is at the beginning conversation of putting together a charter, which we start to do little by little with these special acts. It's like a coat of many colors. We're just putting it together little by little. Or is it something, something that you want, that there's another way to do this, whether we make some of these changes through town meeting, or the things that the board can simply do in terms of reorganization of things. So, so my recommendation is, for the board to approve the contract with CSS in the amount of $24,500. Funding source for that would be the consultant engineering warrant article. You have just over $30,000 in that article that's available to you that has not already been accounted for.
Sam?
A, I think it's an important thing to do, and B, I think this is a okay proposal. I think it'll get it done. I think it will need some, fine tuning as it goes along, but I think this lays out a structure that can work.
Hey, Sam, were you on select board when CSS did the work with ARPA?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I wasn't, but I was on the advisory, so I was pretty impressed with the work they did.
Okay.
That's a vote of confidence.
I have high standards.
All right, so Sam, you want to approve it, right?
Yes.
Okay, Tim?
Mark, I think I asked you this before, but I'm not sure if you have any better answer today. I think you kind of gave an answer already. Is there any expected cost savings or anything from towns that have done this and implemented anything? Like, did they provide any case studies or anything that brought back some kind of ability to repay the fee that they take within a reasonable time frame?
I don't have a better answer for you than when you would ask me. I think it all depends on what the changes are and what we're looking at. I mean, in a broad brush, in communities of our size, you should be looking at a reporting structure where, my position would have roughly 7 to 9 direct reports. Right? So you've got 7 to 9 departments that are reporting to you, and everything else is, and that's going to mean to some of the conversations that we had earlier, some consolidation of things, some putting together of things in a different way than they currently are. So I think that you could probably commit to efficiencies, but we know that efficiencies don't always equal savings, right? So that's the half a sandwich I got for you.
Okay, I mean, I think we need to do this. I'm concerned about doing it today when we're going into all these financial discussions, and, money saved today is money that's not spent for tomorrow. And I have a hard time spending anything today, knowing what we're up against, regardless of the situation. I would only be supportive of doing this if we as a board made a strong commitment to finding at least something to action from this thing within a reasonable period of time after receiving the report. Otherwise, we kind of waste the money and we just have another study that we did that has information that we don't action. So I think I would only be supportive of moving forward today if we, as a board, would take a stance and say that we have a strong commitment to doing something as a result of the study. Otherwise, we're just wasting money.
Well, I think that's kind of a given.
Well,
We're all hoping we can do something.
I mean, that's
That
the
they-
reason we're doing this is
Yeah.
to try to see if there are efficiencies, that we're not optimizing our structures, and we're not optimizing, not even that, but I think other pieces of the piece, but I'll wait.
We've been trying to do this for almost 2 years now.
I mean, all I'm saying is trying, and we have a strong commitment to do something based upon the study. Like, absolutely, one of the meetings after this, we say, what are we gonna do when we commit to that level?
It's one of it's been our goals. It's one of our goals, right? And that's what we're trying to do. But I can't, I'm not going to commit to what we can do until I see what the study recommends, right? But I think I think everybody on this board, I want to speak for everybody, but feels that this would be a catalyst for some kind of beneficial change to the organization.
AD,
I'm in favor of moving forward on this.
AP,
I'm in favor. Just want to make sure, Mark, this would cover like town employee structures, town manager, town administrator kind of concept. That's the charter piece, committee structure, town meeting structure, whether we're, representative or, and it's not really labeled in there, but I kind of think that is not a huge conversation, but I think that might be something just to touch on.
I think we could get some thought. I think the town meeting piece may be
Yeah.
bit of a bridge too far, but I'm sure that we could have at least some comments and everything on, some thoughts on things to think about.
Yeah, I don't sure that necessarily come out of this with a recommendation, but just kind of an analysis to say, hey, similar towns, this is how you would.
Sure.
Just kind of a paragraph on it, I think would be helpful.
okay, so I agree with everything AP said. So I will make a motion to approve the CSS contract to study our government structure.
Second.
All in favor? Alright. Okay, last item is,
I'm gonna pose on
I'm
that.
sorry, you opposed him?
Yeah.
Okay, so 4-1, Bridget. Okay, so last one is whether we want to vote to opt out of delivering marijuana, cannabis, to homes in Southborough. So everybody read what's in the packet, right? Kind of understand what's going on here. So governor passed a law in April that basically said, unless you opt out, then you can do what you can call and have retail marijuana delivered to your house. Now you have to be 21, you have to be registered, you have to be there, you have to show a driver's license. So it's not, 5-year-old that can do this. So there are rules to protect, how this happens. The deliverers have to be licensed in certain ways. So it sounds like they've got a pretty tight process as far as doing it. Board of Health did not take a position. They had a kind of a mixed view of this, and so they saw the pros and cons. So they did not take a position formally as far as this goes. They basically said, select board's job to do this. So here we are. So if we do nothing, and we don't vote to opt out, then the law applies to us and people can call and have retail marijuana delivered to their house, even though Southborough does not have a retail establishment. So it's pretty cut and dry.
Of the 351 communities, only 13 have opted out. The opt-out process, you can vote to opt out. It's a waiver. It's good for 2 years. And then it has to be renewed again every 2 years.
Okay, that's a little misleading though. 351, 197 have recreational marijuana, so you gotta fill them out because they can't opt out. So it's only 351 minus 197, which is
Okay,
150. So
sure.
there's only 154 that could even opt out here.
Yep.
So 13 out of 154 have opted out.
And my understanding is that we can opt out at any time. It's not that
Yes.
We have to opt out by a certain date.
You can, and then you can opt out. You fill out the waiver. It's good for 2 years.
Keep opting
And then
out.
you've just gotta, make sure that, you renew your request, for the waiver again.
So let me ask this in the negative. Is anybody opposed to this? Does anybody want to opt out?
I'm
You want to opt out?
strong Opt out.
Okay, anybody else want to opt out? Okay. Okay, so anybody else want to talk about this? Are we ready to vote? Okay, so I'll make a motion to opt out of the governor's law that allows retail delivery of marijuana in Southborough.
Second.
Okay, all right, so all in, look how I did this, all in favor. Okay, all opposed. Okay, so 4-1, so we have not opted out, so people can call their local cannabis, whatever delivery and have it delivered.
I'll come to your house.
Okay. I mean, I'm really surprised there's no one in the audience on that one, but maybe it's too late. All right, I think that's it. Everybody agree?
Yes.
All right, so I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.